The story opens on the gleaming skyscraper of Tungdao Corporation, a business empire built in just a few years with a net worth of over 100 billion. Its business spans gaming, internet, hardware, and more. Its founder, Pei Qian, is hailed by the media with prestigious titles: the world's best boss, an unparalleled investment whiz, and a genius game developer, among others, as cameras flash incessantly. On stage, before a massive, adoring crowd, the man of the hour, Pei Qian, stands at the podium, ready to address the world. A reporter eagerly asks the question on everyone's mind. Chairman Pei, will you be so kind as to share your experience on your reaching such great heights and achievements? Pei Qian leans into the microphone, a thoughtful expression on his face. My success, he begins before dropping a bombshell, is all a matter of luck. He elaborates on his shocking statement, confessing to the stunned audience. My initial goal was really to lose 50,000. The scene suddenly shifts, rewinding time to the year 2009 at Handong University. In a dark room, a voice urgently calls out, Brother Qian, wake up. A sleepy Pei Qian stirs, complaining about the noise. As he slowly wakes up, he recognizes the frantic voice of his roommate, Ma Yang, who is in a panic about being late for the vice president's class. Pei Qian, still groggy and disoriented, peeks over his blanket, muttering in confusion. Class? What do you mean class? Suddenly, Ma Yang's face is right in front of him, a mischievous grin plastered on his face as he yells, You're finally awake. Pei Qian recoils in shock. Ma Yang apologizes for the scare and rushes out the door, urging Pei Qian to hurry up or risk getting in trouble. Pei Qian is left sitting on his bed, utterly bewildered. Clutching his throbbing head, Pei Qian tries to make sense of the situation. A caption reintroduces him. Pei Qian, 19 years old, university student. He looks around the familiar yet long-forgotten room, realizing it's his old university dorm. The memory of the vice president's attendance check from his first year surfaces. The pieces click into place, and a horrifying realization dawns on him. Year 2009. I came back 10 years into the past. To make sure he isn't dreaming, he pinches his cheek hard. The sharp pain confirms the unbelievable reality. Just as he's processing the time travel, his eyes widen in shock at an even stranger sight materializing before him. A futuristic blue screen appears out of thin air, displaying the words, Wealth Conversion System. The Wealth Conversion System is currently binding its host. Pei Qian stares in disbelief, stammering, S-System? In the next moment, the screen flashes with a confirmation. Binding success. The system then displays his personal profile. Pei Qian, age 19, with a starting capital of 50,000 and personal assets of only 433. A description of the system's rules appears. It will provide funds for business activities, and afterward, the profits and losses will be converted to his personal assets based on a randomly generated ratio. Pei Qian lets out a small laugh, accepting the absurdity of it all. As expected, he thinks. A system appears after traveling back in time. What a routine. He then examines the details. The system will not only provide capital, but also convert both profits and losses into his money. However, the conversion rates are peculiar. Profit conversion is 100:1, while loss conversion is 1:1. He quickly does the math, a bead of sweat forming as he realizes the downside. So that means, he thinks, if I spend this 50,000 and earn $100,000, based on the 100:1 conversion rate, I'll only gain a measly $1,000. But then, the gears in his mind click into place as he considers the alternative. The 1:1 loss conversion rate. If he were to lose the entire 50,000, he would get to pocket all of it. A wicked, greedy smile spreads across his face as the perfect, inverted path to riches reveals itself. Overflowing with triumphant laughter, Pei Qian stands victoriously amidst a splash of water, declaring that his future seems to be gleaming very brightly. The wealth conversion system then prompts him with his first task, to pick a name for his new company. With a devilish grin, he ironically types Soaring Tungda, thinking to himself that this company will definitely go down under his leadership. He decides the company name shall be Tungda. The system confirms the registration of Tungda Network Technology Company, Ltd. The first calculation will be in 14 days. Pei Qian thinks to himself, isn't losing money way easier than earning it? Sitting on his bed, he feels confident. He has the advantage of 10 years' worth of memories from the future. He believes that as long as he avoids any industry he knows will be profitable, he'll definitely be able to lose money. To formalize his brilliant plan, the scene shifts to a comical representation of his mind. Pei Qian's brain internal conference, where 5 chibi versions of himself are seated at a grand round table. A gavel slams down, and the head Pei Qian officially commences the first Lost Challenge meeting. The head Pei Qian asks who wants to be up first. A studious-looking chibi with glasses eagerly raises his hand. This student Pei Qian has studied the system's rules and reports that there are over 200 violations, meaning all illegal activities are prohibited, severely limiting their options for losing money quickly. The restrictions are frustrating. There's no speculating on property, no illegal investing, and no buying cryptocurrency. A chibi Pei Qian dressed as a thief grits his teeth, realizing the system has a tight grip and will punish any violations. As he travels on a high-speed train, Pei Qian reflects that this new world isn't all that different from his original one. He notes, however, that the technology field has progressed a little faster, and more importantly, copyright protections are much stronger, making piracy more difficult. Back in the internal conference, this observation sparks a brilliant idea in one of the chibis holding a game controller. How about we start developing games? He argues his point. Game development spends capital incredibly quickly, and any slight change in the meta can cause a game to go under almost instantly. It's the perfect industry for losing money. The glasses-wearing Pei Qian pushes up his spectacles and agrees. While industries with real goods leave behind fixed assets after bankruptcy, a failed game is just a bunch of worthless code. Another chibi adds their key advantage. We have the memory of what happens in the next 10 years. Wouldn't it suffice if we were to just avoid the games that we know are going to get famous? The plan seems foolproof. The plan is set. A chibi enthusiastically points forward, declaring, Step 1, make the game. Another chibi holds up 2 fingers, announcing, Step 2, pay for it. Turn the system funds into personal assets. And a third chibi throws his hands up, gleefully shouting the final, most important step. Step 3, spend all of it. The decision is unanimous. As money rains down around them, the 5 chibi Pei Qians cheer in agreement. Let's settle it as that. Back in reality, a confident and scheming smile plays on Pei Qian's lips. His mind is made up. Game developing. He envisions himself diving into a digital world, surrounded by game characters. He declares, this life shall begin by losing money as the richest from games. With his grand plan in place, Pei Qian sits down at his computer and gets to work, ready to create a masterpiece of failure. However, as he stares at the game development software, he lets out a yawn, admitting, I didn't expect it to be this hard to make a sellable game. But then he discovers a shortcut. The ESRB platform has resources he can use. All he needs to do is buy a custom game set and process it in an editor. Now, all that's left is to pass the audit before release. He smirks, his plan solidified. As long as he spends all $50,000 on the platform and develops a terrible game that nobody would buy, he'd lose all of it within 2 weeks. He begins his shopping spree on the ESRB platform, first purchasing a driving simulator template for a hefty $20,000. Next, he adds a desert road background template for another $23,000. It's a bit pricey, but perfect for the boring aesthetic he's aiming for. He continues to burn through his capital, buying a radio station feature for $6,000 and a simple ranking function for the last $1,000, completely using up his starting funds. Looking at the collection of bland assets, he feels it's a little too simple and that something is missing. He worries that if it's just a basic driving simulator, it might not even pass the platform's audit. Suddenly, his eyes flash with inspiration. He exclaims, I got it. A truly terrible idea is born. Feverishly typing at his computer, he implements his masterstroke of awfulness. Players must play the map for at least 8 hours straight to pass the stage, and there will be a random turn every now and then. He cackles, Goddamn, I'm a bloody genius. 2 hours later, his work is complete. He now has something that is slightly different from the basic package he bought, which should be enough to pass the audit. Rolling up his sleeves, Pei Qian grabs a controller, eager to test his creation. Let's not waste time and give it a whirl, he says with a grin. The game starts. The view is a monotonous desert highway. The wipers squeak relentlessly, and a sign flashes with a nonsensical message. Your driver is Fako. The squeaking continues as the car drives endlessly down the barren road, the only change in scenery being the occasional cactus. Pei Qian is horrified by his own creation. What the actual fuck did I really make this game? He thinks aghast. Why the fuck is it so bloody boring? A delighted, evil grin spreads across his face. Can this even be counted as a driving simulator game? Playing this is the epitome of torture. He wonders if he's the king of torture. He tosses the controller aside, supremely confident. With such a messed up gameplay, I guess the gamers would curse me to death. There's no way this game would ever earn a profit. Leaning back in his chair with a sinister look, he concludes that with such a terrible game in hand, he is absolutely bound to lose money. The scene shifts to an evening view of the Han-Dong University dormitories, with students milling about under the moonlight. Inside, the dorm is alive with the sounds of intense gaming. One of Pei Qian's roommates is shouting commands for a MOBA game, yelling Baron, Baron, and collapse on that Yasuo. While eating instant noodles, Ma Yang looks over and asks, Brother Qian, you're really gutsy, huh? Are you really going to continue skipping classes? Pei Qian, completely engrossed in the game, furiously types and shouts back. Ma Yang, just shut up and hurry up. Finish your food. You're always missing in team fights. The game is going poorly. In-game chat explodes with frustration. Hey, Mid's missing. He's probably roaming. And fuck, we're fighting. Mayong, are you seriously still jungling? The team is decimated. An ally cries out in despair. It's a 3v1, yet we still got killed. Do you even know how to play the game? The screen flashes with the final, crushing result, defeat. Pei Qian stares at the screen in utter disbelief. I was 11/2/7, and I lost. His screen is flooded with insults from other players flaming his team's incompetence. Ma Yang, with a completely clueless look on his face and a pitiful score of 2/2/2, chimes in. Brother Qian, you gotta carry if you're going to get yourself this fed. Pei Qian is struck dumb by rage, internally screaming at Ma Yang for blaming him after farming the whole game. Yet, as he stares at his roommate's baffling incompetence, his anger begins to morph into a shocking realization. As he watches Ma Yang eat his noodles, Pei Qian reflects on his roommate. Ma Yang is serious in everything he does, but his results are always average. He's the classic example of a jack of all trades, master of none. Despite the crushing defeat, his roommates are fired up and ready for another match, shouting, "Let's go for another. We gotta wreck them." But Pei Qian has other priorities. He pushes his chair back with a yawn, telling them, "Count me out, I'm hella sleepy. I want to wake up early in the morning too." Lying in bed, he thinks to himself, so what if we lost that game? His real goal is waiting. All he has to do is wait 2 weeks to get an extra 50,000 in his pocket. That feeling would be a lot better than winning a game. He daydreams about the $50,000, imagining all the new gadgets he could buy, like an ET gaming laptop and the latest graphics cards. The scene cuts to someone watching a video on their phone. An episode of Shitty Games Trash Talk is ending, with the host asking viewers to like, share, and subscribe. We are now in a messy apartment in D-City. A man with glasses sits at his desk and lets out a deep sigh. This is Xiao Liang, a streamer for the Sweet Potato Network, who goes by the IGN teacher Xiao. Xiao Liang looks utterly dejected. "Damn it," he says, looking at his screen. "The games in this week's episodes are so terrible, they'll never get me good viewership." He glances at his kettle, the pressure mounting. "Sigh. If I can't get enough views on today's episode, I will never get the sponsorship I need to pay for this month's bills." Desperately scrolling for content, his cursor lands on a peculiar new title. Lonely Desert Highway, accompanied by the strange tagline, a driving simulator that helps you reconsider your life choices. Xiao Liang, a man with tired eyes, snacks on chips while browsing online, wondering about a strange game he found called Lonely Desert Highway. He's shocked to see the price. The game, which claims to be a driving simulator that helps you reconsider your life choices, costs only $1. With a devilish grin, Xiao Liang decides to buy it. He's curious to see how a $1 game could possibly help him reconsider his life choices. The game starts, and he's immediately unimpressed, commenting on the terribly rendered desert background. As he drives the red truck down the empty road, he notices how stiff and unresponsive the steering wheel is. The monotony continues, and he even finds the sound effects of the truck to be dreary and uninspired. However, as a self-proclaimed expert in terrible games, Xiao Liang adjusts his glasses, claiming he's already used to these kinds of flaws. But as time passes with no change in scenery, he starts to feel bored, wondering why the game is so stagnant after driving for so long. Sweating with frustration, he can't stand it anymore and decides to give the game only 10 more minutes before quitting. The boredom becomes unbearable as he trembles in his seat, completely speechless. The endless road starts to get to him, and he begins to have an existential crisis, questioning who he is and what he's doing. He's so bored he feels like he could die. Aside from the endless driving and occasional turns, there's absolutely nothing else to the game. Suddenly, a realization hits him. He wonders if this game, in its endless stagnation, is an exact reflection of his own life. He decides to stop for a bit, saying he needs to eat before exploring the game any further. But to his horror, he discovers the game has no pause function. He screams in frustration, wondering what is wrong with this game. While he was distracted, the truck in the game crashes into a rock on the side of the road. A game over screen appears. Xiao Liang is in disbelief. He drove for 30 minutes, only for the game to simply ask him to try again. With a sinister smile, he eats his instant noodles. He calls the game garbage, but says he'll turn it into content for his shitty game channel. The scene shifts to the Handong University dorm, a bright and modern building. Here, Pei Qian, the game's creator, describes the video he's watching. He explains that for the entire 8-hour drive, players have to stay focused because of the frequent turns. He continues explaining the miserable gameplay he designed. If a player misses a turn, they fail and have to start from scratch. The most genius part, he thought, was the ending. The game mocks the player with a final message. Congratulations, you've successfully wasted 8 hours of your life. The streamer in the video, Xiao Liang, had a breakthrough, exclaiming that the game succeeded in helping him reconsider his life options. The comments below the video are all positive, with people eager to buy the game. Pei Qian is in utter shock. He can't understand why this video on a game he made to be trash is getting such an enthusiastic response from viewers. Clutching his head in disbelief, he wonders what in the world is going on. His confusion turns to rage as he brandishes his keyboard, yelling that Tungdao Gaming made a scrappy game and people should stop buying it. But his pleas are drowned out by a flood of comments from viewers who love the game and are happy to spend their money on it. Pei Qian has a complete mental breakdown, his spirit literally flying out of his body. He screams that there's something wrong with the world, or maybe he's the one who has gone crazy. He slumps back into his chair, sighing as he pulls up the wealth conversion system. He can't believe his intentionally terrible game caught a streamer's attention and received a crazy good response. The system shows the devastating results. His system funds have ballooned to over $125,000, but after the conversion, his personal assets have only increased by a pitiful $754. He spits out a mouthful of blood in sheer horror. His guaranteed $50,000 loss is gone, replaced by an unwanted profit. To deal with the crisis, Pei Qian imagines himself holding an emergency internal conference with several smaller versions of himself. A chibi version of him slams a gavel, officially commencing their emergency meeting to address the disastrous success. One of the chibis reports the grim numbers. The game sold 20,000 copies, and after the platform's share, they've gained a profit of about 70,000. The analyst chibi adjusts his glasses, pointing out that because of the terrible conversion rate, all that profit only earned him $700 personally. Another chibi calmly sips his tea, stating that there's no point crying over spilled milk. The real issue is figuring out how to spend the next 50,000 in system funds. Suddenly, an idea sparks. One of the chibis suggests they get someone to help them lose the money. The chibis all agree. They'll hire a lazy failure and pay him a monthly wage. Surely, with an incompetent employee, the company will be ready to collapse at any moment. The only question is, who to hire? One chibi has a flash of genius, realizing the perfect person for the job has been right beside him this whole time. They all agree excitedly. They need someone who is known for dragging his teammates down and has a talent for destroying everything he touches. He's the perfect guy for the job. As if on cue, the door opens. His roommate, Ma Yang, enters cheerfully, singing about how he's only good at eating while bringing Pei Qian his lunch. Pei Qian's face lights up. He rushes to Ma Yang, thanking him and calling him a treasure, saying everything feels complete now that he's here. He grabs Ma Yang by the shoulders, a determined look in his eyes, and declares, "You're my only hope." Ma Yang is completely baffled by his friend's strange behavior, scratching his head and wondering if Pei Qian has gotten dumber from hunger. The scene shifts to a lively outdoor barbecue restaurant, where groups of friends are eating and cheering together. While Ma Yang happily eats some grilled food, Pei Qian plots. He thinks to himself that with his 30,000 in system funds, it wouldn't be too much to hire someone. Enjoying the free food, Ma Yang asks Pei Qian why he's suddenly treating him to a meal, wondering if he struck a fortune. Pei Qian forces a smile, saying he made a little money. Internally, he's mourning his lost $50,000, sarcastically thinking he struck gold by only making a personal profit of $754. He glances at the system interface, which shows it's replenishing his funds. The next tabulation period is in 30 days, and the target amount is a whopping $300,000. Holding a soda can, Pei Qian cries tears of sorrow. He laments that he worked so hard just to end up with a personal asset of only $900. He looks at his phone, realizing the system tops up his funds to a fixed value after each period. A new determination sets in. He has to find a way to squander all $300,000 in the next 30 days. Just as he's deep in thought, Ma Yang's voice cuts through, telling him to stop spacing out and eat. The interruption brings Pei Qian back to the present, reminding him that the perfect candidate for his plan is sitting right across the table. Pei Qian starts his pitch, casually telling Ma Yang that he's been developing games recently and is looking for a helping hand, asking if he's interested. Ma Yang is stunned. He knows game development is an industry that burns through money and asks where Pei Qian could have possibly gotten the capital from. Deciding to spin a lie, Pei Qian claims he's the son of a tycoon and that his family funded him with $300,000. Ma Yang is shocked to hear about such a large amount of money, and Pei Qian is inwardly thrilled that his friend actually believed the absurd story. Ma Yang asks if Pei Qian knows anything about designing or programming, to which he bluntly replies nope. Ma Yang naively suggests that it shouldn't matter, as they can just buy a basic package online and add to it. While opening a can of soda, Ma Yang points out the major flaw in the plan. Neither of them knows a single thing about game development. He looks down at his drink, concerned. He admits that wasting $300,000 just like that feels a little wrong to him. Pei Qian is internally furious. He didn't expect Ma Yang's conscience to hit him this hard, seeing it as a major roadblock to his plans. But Pei Qian refuses to give up, determined to find a way to convince his friend to go along with the plan. Switching tactics, Pei Qian clears his throat and asks Ma Yang if he has heard of the game, Lonely Desert Highway. Ma Yang takes a sip of his soda and confirms that he has, calling it the stupid game that got really famous recently. With a confident smirk, Pei Qian proudly touches his nose and declares, "I made that." In complete shock, Mayong does a classic spit take, spraying his soda all over the table. His eyes wide with disbelief, Mayong shouts, asking if Pei Qian was really the creator of that famous game. Mayang's attitude completely changes. He's now full of admiration, saying it takes real skill to get that famous. He declares he may not be good at anything, but he is definitely trustworthy. Filled with newfound motivation, Mayong announces he's going to the bookshop to grab some game development books right away, promising not to drag Pei Qian down as he dashes off. Pei Qian is left stunned. He wanted an incompetent assistant, not a diligent student, and weakly calls out for Mayong to wait, but it's too late. A bead of sweat rolls down his face as he starts to worry. Ma Yang's sudden enthusiasm makes him question if hiring him was really the right move to ensure failure. The scene transitions to later that night, showing the exterior of their dorm building. Mayong bursts back into the room, cheerfully announcing his return while carrying a massive, towering stack of books, much to Pei Qian's shock. The huge pile of books thuds onto the desk. The book on top has a particularly unhelpful title, How to Cope with Life Outside Coding. Mayong proudly shows off his finds, explaining that since they were on sale, he bought a few extra books, including high-level coding for dummies and guides on preventing hair loss and neck pain. Pei Qian is internally screaming. He can't believe Mayong is already worried about programmer health problems like neck aches and hair loss when he isn't even a programmer yet. Despite his inner turmoil, Pei Qian gives a thumbs up. He realizes this is perfect. He's found just the right guy whose incompetence is even more unique than he could have hoped for. Mayong eagerly starts with high-level coding for dummies, but is immediately overwhelmed. The contents are dense, and while he knows the words, they seem foreign when put together. Internally, Pei Qian smirks. He knew buying all those books wouldn't help at all, and would only serve to take up space in their room. He puts on an act, telling Mayong that they're focusing on designing, not coding. He adds a convincing lie, saying that with the boom in the tech industry, half the content in those books is obsolete anyway. Mayong gets angry, realizing that must be why the books were on sale. He's frustrated because the store doesn't allow refunds on sale items, meaning the money is wasted. Pei Qian reassures him it's fine, and cleverly adds that Mayong can file the books as a company claim. Mayong is amazed to hear he can get reimbursed for the purchase. Now that he knows the company is paying, Mayong is fired up once again. Holding his Coding for Dummies book, he gives a thumbs up and declares it's time to cram. However, his determination doesn't last long. Soon after, Mayong is fast asleep in his bed, snoring away with the book covering his face, while Pei Qian works at his desk in the background. Having finished his work, Pei Qian slams his hands down on the desk with a sense of accomplishment. He looks over at his sleeping roommate with tears of joy streaming down his face. Mayong has 100 points for attitude, but 0 points for capability. He's the perfect employee to help him lose money. Sitting at his desk, Pei Qian sighs wistfully. He imagines an entire army of Mayangs, thinking what a pity it is that he's the only one. If he could hire more people like him, he'd be rich in no time. Shaking off the daydream, Pei Qian cracks his knuckles, his expression turning serious. It's time to confirm what he'll be doing next. The road to losing $300,000 begins now. The new plan to lose money begins, and this time, it's through a card game. In their dorm room, Pei Qian discusses his new idea with his roommate Mayong. Mayong, perched on the top bunk, looks skeptical, asking if they're really making a mobile card game. Pei Qian confidently confirms his plan. He announces they will develop a mobile card game based on the Three Kingdoms, and he's already purchased the game template. Mayong leans down from his bunk, asking if Pei Qian is using the popular game Cute Three Kingdoms as a reference. He mentions hearing that many companies are making mobile card games, pointing to the cartoony and popular Cute Three Kingdoms as an example. Mayong reaches for his phone to prove his point. He shows Pei Qian the game leaderboards on his phone, pointing out that the Three Kingdoms IP is overused and cliché. 5 of the top 10 games are based on it. A smug smile spreads across Pei Qian's face. This is music to his ears. An oversaturated, cliché market is the perfect place to fail. In his mind, Pei Qian visualizes his path to failure. By choosing a fierce competition and a popular but overused theme like Three Kingdoms, he's certain his game will be obliterated, and he'll finally lose money. The scene shifts to a metaphorical space, a conference inside Pei Qian's brain, where different aspects of his personality convene to craft the perfect money-losing plan. The lead Pei Qian clone bangs the gavel, calling the meeting to order. One of the clones eagerly volunteers to speak first. The eager student Pei Qian is welcome to present his opinion on how to best lose money. He adjusts his glasses and points out that Cute Three Kingdoms has a restrained paywall, which is different from the heavily monetized card games of his past life. Another clone elaborates. Cute Three Kingdoms sells for 5 yuan, and the spending is essentially capped at 1,000 yuan per player. One clone suggests an obvious but flawed idea, make their paywall extremely high. Surely, that would make players angry and quit. But the analytical clone immediately points out the flaw. What if the big spenders, the whales, actually enjoy the high paywall? The game could accidentally turn a profit. He visualizes a whale player, a big spender who can single-handedly support a game's earnings, taunting the free-to-play players. The lead clone has a breakthrough. Instead of a high paywall, they'll do the opposite. They'll make it so that even the whales have no way to spend their money. The clones erupt in excitement, building on the idea. They'll set the game's price at 10 yuan, double that of the competitor. But inside, the shop will only sell a single, cheap permanent item. The paywall will be so low, it will be impossible to spend money. They all start laughing maniacally, imagining the player's confusion. An expensive entry fee, but nowhere to spend money inside. It's the perfect, genius plan to make everyone hate their game. Back in the real world, Pei Qian sits at his computer, a smirk on his face. He explains to Ma Yang that the game template is ready, complete with basic functions, but no new gameplay features. Ma Yang's jaw drops in shock when he sees the price. A simple template cost 100,000 yuan. Pei Qian, however, is completely unfazed. To him, 100,000 is just pocket change. Internally, Pei Qian is actually disappointed. To him, 100,000 is far too cheap. He was hoping to burn through cash much faster, but this is just the beginning. He calmly explains the next steps, adding screen UI, combat effects, card designs, and all the other art assets. Ma Yang listens, his expression growing more concerned as he realizes just how much more expensive this project is about to get. Ma Yang, still processing the high cost of the template, nervously asks about the budget for the art assets. Pei Qian holds up 3 fingers, calmly breaking down the remaining 100,000. He allocates 30,000 for music and sound effects, and 10,000 for other expenses. With a dramatic slam of his fist on the table, he declares that the entire remaining 60,000 will be poured into the art assets, leaving Ma Yang bewildered by the spending. Having finished organizing his thoughts, Pei Qian gathers a stack of papers detailing his master plan. He clips the document together and thrusts it towards a startled Ma Yang. Pei Qian explains that while he'll handle the UI and effects requirements, he's leaving the most crucial task to his friend: the design requirements for the character cards. Ma Yang starts to sweat, nervously admitting that his knowledge of the 3 kingdoms comes only from TV shows, and he's afraid he'll mess up. Pei Qian pats him on the shoulder, feigning encouragement. He tells Ma Yang not to worry, because what they want for their game are characters that are groundbreaking and innovative. Though clearly uncertain, Ma Yang agrees to try his best, clutching the document that holds the fate of Pei Qian's failure. Pei Qian gives an encouraging smile, but thinks to himself that Ma Yang's ignorance is exactly why he was chosen. The sabotage is proceeding perfectly. Ma Yang is already overwhelmed, but Pei Qian reassures him. The goal isn't historical accuracy, but to be as outrageous and groundbreaking as possible. Taking the prompt to heart, Ma Yang tentatively asks if he can design the legendary General Guan Yu as a dragon. Pei Qian instantly gives him a thumbs up. Now fully embracing the creative freedom, Ma Yang shouts his ideas from the bathroom. Ma Chao as a centaur? Approved. Zhou Tsong as a dragon lady? Yes. He even comes up with the idea of making the male strategist Lu Meng into a lowly dragon, drooling at his own absurd creation. Pei Qian is overjoyed, grabbing a stunned Ma Yang and praising him. This is exactly the kind of terrible, fan-enraging content he was hoping for. Ma is a genius at being wrong. Internally, Pei Qian celebrates. He had found the perfect person for the job. Concepts like making the fierce warrior Zhou Tsong into a dragon lady and Lu Meng into a cross-dressing lowly were guaranteed to be hated. With Ma Yang's incredible bullshit secured, Pei Qian moves on to the next phase of his plan, finding an artist. He cackles with glee. His logic is simple. The popular game Kyut 3 Kingdoms uses a chibi style. Therefore, to ensure his game is hated, he'll do the exact opposite and commission a realistic style. While browsing an art portfolio website, he comes across an artist named Wan Guangjin, who seems to fit his needs perfectly. He checks the artist's portfolio. It's filled with anime chibi-style art, and he only charges 800 yuan apiece. Pei Qian deduces this must be a newbie who's terrible at realistic drawing, perfect for his plan. Without hesitation, he begins typing a commission request to the unsuspecting artist. He hits the enter key, officially setting the next part of his money-losing scheme in motion. Pei Qian revels in his perfectly crafted plan. An unreasonable request for a newbie artist who can't draw realistically, combined with Ma Yang's terrible concepts, is sure to make 3 Kingdoms fans furious. He grins, his perfect plan for failure now complete. An outdated template, a high buyout price of 10 yuan, and a pathetically small maximum top-up of only 30 yuan. As Ma Yang diligently scribbles down the nonsensical character ideas, Pei Qian's work is done for now. He daydreams of the wonderful life that awaits him, a life where losing 300,000 yuan is the ultimate prize. The scene shifts to the student canteen at Handong University. Inside, the canteen is bustling with students. While Ma Yang stuffs his face, Pei Qian reviews the list of character requirements, nodding and murmuring, "Not bad, not bad." He's secretly delighted. The requirements are so absurdly written that it would have been better if Ma Yang had just left the page blank. It's perfect. The list is filled with nonsense. Guan Yu is a humanoid dragon, and Ma Chao is half-horse with a dragon clan bloodline. In short, it's completely unreasonable. Pei Qian gives a thumbs up, ecstatic that except for the names, the descriptions have absolutely nothing to do with the actual characters from the Three Kingdoms. Ma Yang, proud of his work, tells Pei Qian he has another crazy idea. He suggests the ultimate groundbreaking move. What if they make all the famous male warriors of the Three Kingdoms into female characters? Pei Qian is horrified. That's a terrible idea for his plan. He slaps the list out of Ma Yang's hand, shouting, "Definitely not." Ma Yang is confused. He thought Pei Qian wanted the game to be groundbreaking, and gender-swapping characters is a popular trope. Pei Qian quickly backpedals, thinking fast. He explains that making all the characters female would make them bland. But his real fear is that such a move might accidentally make the game popular. He reassures Ma Yang that his original ideas, like Ma Chao as a centaur and Guan Yu as a dragon, are already excellent because they are so distinct and easily recognizable. The simple-minded Ma Yang completely buys the explanation, having a moment of enlightenment. Pei Qian hands the list back, telling Ma Yang to transfer the content to the computer when he gets back to the dorm. It's time for Pei Qian to talk to the artist. As he leaves, Pei Qian smiles to himself, relieved that Ma Yang is a simpleton who can be easily fooled. The story shifts to the bustling metropolis of Mo City. Specifically, we're at the dormitory building for the art department of Mo City University of Finances and Economics. Inside, we meet a new set of characters, a team of aspiring artists, gathered in their dorm room. At the computer sits Wan Guangjian, a student of the art department. His roommates, Huang and Zhou, crowd around him, asking about the commission he just received. Wan Guangjian shoos them away, emphasizing the importance of this job. Their ability to afford good meals for the next few months depends on it. He focuses on his screen and replies to the client's message, asking for the specific requirements and quantity of art needed. The scene transforms into a metaphorical grand hall, representing the formal negotiation between client and artist. In the metaphorical negotiation hall representing their chat, Wan Guangjian gets straight to the point, asking the client for the specifics. How many art pieces are needed, and what are the requirements? Pei Qian's reply is both massive and bizarre. His first and most important rule, absolutely no chibi art. As for the rest, the scope is huge, a total of 50 characters, each requiring 4 separate drawings, for a grand total of 200 unique pieces. Wan Guangjian is taken aback. His entire portfolio is filled with chibi art, yet this new client's first and most important requirement is specifically no chibi. He is completely bewildered by the strange request. At the university's art department, Pei Qian finds a potential artist for his game, Wan Guangjian. Confidently, Wan states his price. 2,000 for a set, a rate he considers a little high for a newbie, but justified by his top-notch skills. Pei Qian, whose goal is to lose money, is horrified. He calculates that at 2,000 for a set of 4, each piece would only cost 500. At this rate, he'd never be able to spend all his system-allocated funds. He panics, realizing this cheap price is a disaster for his plans. Determined to spend more money, Pei Qian slams his hand down and dramatically objects, declaring that he thinks the price is inappropriate. Wan Guangjian, taken aback by the objection, gestures helplessly and insists that this price is already his bottom line, unable to understand why the client would be unhappy with a reasonable rate. Pei Qian begins to argue for a higher price. He explains that since the project requires a groundbreaking art style and the planner has provided ambiguous requirements, the difficulty will be much higher, thus justifying more pay. To add dramatic flair to his argument for a higher price, Pei Qian slams his hands firmly on the counter. Holding up 3 fingers, Pei Qian makes his generous offer. He declares that considering all the extra work Wan will have to deal with, a price of 3,000 yuan would be more appropriate. Wan Guangjian is utterly dumbfounded. He's never encountered a client who insists on paying more. He wonders if he's witnessing the legendary reverse bargain. Pleased with himself for successfully negotiating a higher price, Pei Qian casually presents the art requirements list to the still-stunned artist. Ruan's shock quickly turns to a different kind of disbelief as he starts to process the actual requirements. Looking at the holographic list of art asset requirements, Ruan is aghast. The descriptions are incredibly vague and omitted, giving him no clear references. He throws his hands up in frustration, complaining that it will be impossible for him to draw. Pei Qian, seeing this as another opportunity to ensure bad results, reassures him. He tells Ruan not to worry, and that they'll accept anything he draws without asking for redos, even offering to write it into the contract. Hearing this, Ruan reluctantly agrees to sign the digital contract right away. Delighted that everything is going according to his plan to lose money, Pei Qian cheerfully agrees, holding the contract and a pen, ready to finalize the deal. With the contract signed, Pei Qian stretches triumphantly. He has successfully hired an artist with vague requirements and overpaid him, a perfect step towards his goal of failing. Back in his dorm, Pei Qian continues his spending spree, planning to purchase music, sound effects, and cloud services. As his roommate snores in bed, Pei Qian decides against any marketing budget, thinking it's better if no one knows about the game at all. Meanwhile, back in his own dorm, a re-energized Wan Guangjin sits at his desk. He excitedly calls out to his roommates, Old Huang and Old Zhou, telling them to hurry up because they've got work to do. Ruan's roommates and art team gather around his computer. They're amazed at the pay. 3,000 yuan for 4 pieces. One of them exclaims that with this price, they could draw anything. But Ruan clarifies that this time, the customer specifically said they can draw any style except for chibi. His friends are baffled. One points out that all the works in Ruan's portfolio are chibi style. They can't understand why a customer, after seeing his portfolio, would hire him and then forbid him from drawing in his supposed specialty. They wonder if the client has gone nuts. Ruan slams his hand on the desk, startling his friends. He furiously yells back that the client isn't nuts, but is in fact incredibly insightful. In a quiet moment of reflection, Ruan reveals his true feelings. He confesses that he actually hates drawing in the chibi style. However, since all the popular mobile games trended towards chibi characters, he had no choice but to draw them to get jobs and make money. With newfound determination, Ruan looks ahead. He declares that now he doesn't have to draw chibi anymore. This project is his long-awaited chance to finally show the world his true worth as an artist. Having made up his mind, Ruan sits at his laptop, pulling up an image. He looks at it with resolve and says, "I've decided to go with this style." The style he has chosen is revealed in a stunning full-page splash. An epic, gritty inking style reminiscent of oil painting, featuring a powerful minotaur-like warrior wielding a massive axe. His friends look over his shoulder, still a bit worried. One of them voices their main concern, asking if this highly specific and detailed style can truly match the client's incredibly vague requirements. Ruan confidently explains his grand interpretation. He believes the core of the request is to emphasize epicness, where appearance is the most crucial factor. Therefore, he concludes, the more the character designs deviate from standard humans, the better they will fulfill the client's hidden wish. Ruan continues to justify his choice, admitting that while Three Kingdoms games usually have an art style unsuitable for his epic vision, the client's vague requirement to overhaul the character images makes it a perfect, if unconventional, match. His friend, Huang, raises another concern. He points out that Ruan is the only one truly skilled in this unique, epic style, and the rest of the team might not be able to replicate it properly. Ruan waves off their worries with a confident smile. He lays out a clear workflow. He will personally handle the core character design and line drawings. The others can help refine them, and he will perform the final finishing touches, ensuring the art style remains perfectly aligned and consistent. The team is convinced. They agree to accept the work, seeing it as a high-reward, low-risk opportunity. If the style fails, the client foots the bill. But if it becomes popular, this could be their chance to launch their own studio after graduation. Fired up with passion and ambition, Ruan rallies his friends. He declares that they will pour everything they have into this project, create it to the highest possible standard, and make a name for themselves. The whole team cheers in enthusiastic agreement. 3 weeks pass. The late-night lights of the university building indicate the immense effort the team has been putting into the project. In his dorm, an exhausted Ruan, now with stubble and bags under his eyes, leans back from his desk. He taps his drawing tablet with a stylus, announcing with satisfaction, "Okay, everything is done." With a tired but genuinely happy smile, he tells his team they all worked hard and suggests they go out for a celebratory meal. However, a look around the room reveals a scene of utter devastation. His teammates are passed out across the furniture, the room littered with corpses from sheer exhaustion, surrounded by empty energy drinks and instant noodle cups. Seeing the state of his comrades, Ruan sighs, brushing his hair back. He decides to let them rest and resolves to treat them to lunch the next day instead. He stands up from his chair, the long and arduous 3-week project finally complete. Ruan types a message on his laptop, attaching the finished files. The message reads, "A total of 50 sets, 200 drawings. Please check." He sends the fruit of his team's labor to the client. The scene shifts to the exterior of Handong University's dormitory building, where Pei Qian resides. Pei Qian, sitting at his computer, sees the notification that the files have been delivered. He's genuinely surprised by the artist's speed, remarking to himself that his efficiency is quite high for finishing everything within the deadline. As the large zip file downloads, Pei Qian watches the progress bar, a hopeful thought crossing his mind. He wonders about the quality, secretly praying that it's terrible and will help his game fail. Before checking the art, he pulls up his wealth conversion system. It shows he has over 8,000 in the system fund and only 8 days left until settlement. He calculates that after paying Ma Yang's salary, he still needs to burn through the remaining 5,000. Feeling the time pressure, Pei Qian rubs his eyes. He resolves to go to the resource station to buy more assets, determined to blow up all the system funds before the deadline. Just then, a beep from his computer announces that the file transfer is complete. It's finally done. With the download complete, Pei Qian's hand moves to the mouse, and with a decisive click, he opens the folder containing the art assets. A hopeful smirk plays on Pei Qian's lips as he waits for the first image to load. He better not draw it too beautiful, he thinks, anticipating laughably bad art that will drive players away. The first piece of art loads, and it is a masterpiece. A stunning, epic illustration of divine fighter Guan Yu, rendered in a breathtaking oil painting style, with a dragon motif and dynamic composition. It is the polar opposite of what Pei Qian wanted. Pei Qian's face instantly ages, wrinkles forming as his jaw goes slack. He stares at the screen in utter, soul-crushing shock. His plan has already gone horribly wrong. His shock curdles into pure, unadulterated rage. He can't believe his eyes. A single word escapes his lips, filled with frustration. King. His face contorts in agony. He can't believe a drawing of this magnificent quality was produced for the price he paid, screaming internally. This is really a drawing that costs only 700 yuan? Peeking from behind his monitor, a single, horrifying question runs through his mind. Is Wan Guangjin screwing with him? The ridiculously high standard of the art is a complete disaster for his plans, leading him to question the artist's true intentions. Clutching his head in agony, Pei Qian cries out in frustration. He can't comprehend it. You have such freaking awesome creations. Why the hell is your portfolio on the resource station all in chibi style? The artist's talent is a devastating blow to his plans. In his moment of crisis, the scene shifts to a familiar location, Pei Qian's brain. He convenes an emergency conference with multiple versions of himself, all with their heads on the table in despair, as he announces the start of the second emergency meeting. Panicking, Pei Qian slams the table in his mental boardroom. He declares that they're done for. They can't breach the contract, and the game must be released in 2 days, or the system will delay the settlement. He desperately asks if there are any remedial measures. A more rational, glasses-wearing version of Pei Qian speaks up, advising calm. He posits that things might not be as bad as they seem. While the art style has noticeable characteristics, there's a chance that the players might not like it. Another version of him, calmly sipping from a cup, builds on this hope. He reminds them that the game uses an old template, the gameplay is boring, and they didn't spend any money on other resources, making it bland. Surely, beautiful art alone can't save such a fundamentally flawed game. A cheerful, bow-tied version of Pei Qian offers the final piece of reassurance. Since they allocated zero budget for marketing, players have no way of even knowing about the game. If no one can find it, no one can see the art in the first place. With their spirits renewed, the emergency conference reaches a decision. They will submit the game with a simple, ridiculous name and description to avoid trending. Most importantly, the name can never have 3 kingdoms in it. With this final sabotage, Pei Qian is sure he will succeed in failing. Back in reality, Pei Qian is pulled from his thoughts by his roommate, Ma Yang, who peeks over his shoulder and asks what he's looking at. Ma Yang leans in for a closer look at the screen, and his jaw drops. He points in astonishment, exclaiming, "Teach, this is our game's character art? Oh holy sh*t. Thinking fast, Pei Qian decides to flatter his simple-minded friend. He claims the beautiful art was thanks to the inspirational requirements Ma Yang wrote. Ma Yang is ecstatic, wondering aloud how he never knew he had such a hidden talent. Putting on a confident face, Pei Qian gives his next order. He asks old Ma to test the game for any bugs. If it's all clear, they'll be ready for release. Ma Yang dutifully agrees. After a moment, Ma Yang turns back to Pei Qian with a bright, curious smile. He excitedly asks what the name of their new game is. With a perfectly feigned cheerful expression, Pei Qian points a finger in the air and proudly announces the intentionally bland and unappealing name. Ghost General, a regular card game. The scene shifts to a lively restaurant, where Wan Guangjin and his art team are celebrating the completion of their project. They raise their beer mugs for a toast. Cheers! The friends are enjoying a massive feast. Wan generously tells everyone not to be shy and to enjoy the drinks, declaring that they're all getting drunk today to celebrate their hard work and success. In the middle of the celebration, one of his friends with glasses asks Wan about the game they made the drawings for and when it's going to be released. Wan scratches his head, trying to recall the details. He says he thinks it's called Ghost General, but he has no idea when it will be released since he never asked the client. Curiosity piqued, another one of his friends decides to search for the game on the YesRO platform, the mobile app store. Suddenly, the friend searching his phone shouts out in shock. The heck? It's already released. The others are stunned, pointing out that they had only just sent the artworks that morning. They can't believe it was released right away in the afternoon. Without a word, the entire table immediately pulls out their smartphones to find and download the game. One friend reads the game's page and is baffled by its description. "This is a normal card game?" He complains about how half-assed it sounds. At the same time, another friend is shocked to discover that Lonely Desert Highway, a notoriously bad game, was also made by this same company. They see the game as being sold for 10 yuan. One of the artists resolutely decides to buy it, declaring that no matter what, they need to see the outcome of their hard labor. While munching on his food, the friend with glasses excitedly announces that he's already completed the tutorial and is about to make his first 10-draw pull in the gacha system. The results of his 10 pull appear on the screen, showing a shower of high-rarity cards. He stares in disbelief. "Huh? I got 2 orange cards just by pulling it once. Aren't I lucky?" Orange cards are clearly the game's top-tier reward. A moment later, the entire table erupts in shock. One by one, they all exclaim that they also received multiple high-rarity orange cards from their first pull. The gacha rates are unbelievably generous, far beyond any other game on the market. Wang Guangjin is completely baffled by this luck. He scratches his head, holding his phone, and theorizes that perhaps the chances of getting rare cards are so high because the game is still in a testing stage. Just then, his friend shoves a phone in his face, telling him to look. He points out the most shocking discovery of all. The game's shop only sells a single item, a 30 yuan permanent membership card. There's no other way for players to spend money. To the artists, this seems incredibly generous. To Pei Qian, it's the final, catastrophic failure of his master plan. At a dinner gathering, Wang Guangjin and his team discuss the new game, Ghost General. They are concerned about its monetization, noting that with only a 10-draw daily limit after purchase, the premium system seems useless. Wang Guangjin, still pondering the game's strange setup, decides to contact their boss directly. He suggests asking Boss Pei about it, speculating that there might be special considerations or that the game isn't in its final version yet. He sends a message to Pei Qian, pointing out the lack of a premium system and that the shop only contains a single item. He hopefully asks if this is just because the game is in a testing stage and if more features will be added in the final version. A notification sound dings. Pei Qian's blunt reply appears on the screen, shattering their hopes. This is the final version. The scene flashes back to Wang Guangjin's earlier meeting with Pei Qian, where these strange decisions were first explained. Wang Guangjin recalls questioning the in-game shop, which only featured a single, permanent membership card for 30 yuan. Pei Qian, with a confident smirk that Wang mistook for genius, had stated plainly that the game only sells permanent membership cards and that they had no intention of launching any new products. The response left Wang Guangjin completely baffled, unable to understand the reasoning behind such a business model. Pei Qian explained his philosophy. The game has a single fixed price, so there's no reason to implement more in-game purchases. He even claimed they initially hadn't considered the membership card, adding it only as an afterthought for players who might need it. Still troubled, Wang Guangjin then brought up the issue of promotion, noting the game's poor download numbers and asking if it was because they hadn't started marketing yet. From across the room, Pei Qian cheerfully shot down that idea as well, exclaiming that there would be no promotion, leaving Wang Guangjin once again in shock. Pei Qian put on a sorrowful expression, sighing as he explained his supposed reason. They simply had no money. He claimed the entire 300,000 budget was spent on templates, art assets, music, and server costs. With a look of finality, Pei Qian declared that there was no more money left, secretly celebrating how perfectly his plan to fail was going. Back in the present, Wang Guangjin stares at his phone, a message from a friend asking what Boss Pei had said. The memory of the meeting fills him with a sense of duty. His determination ignites. He clenches his fist and exclaims to his friends that Ghost General is in need of their help. He begins to explain his interpretation of the situation to the rest of the team at the dinner table. Wang Guangjin confesses that at first, he thought Boss Pei was just super rich, and that's why he didn't bargain and gave them a fair price for their work. His friend, Joe, takes a sip of his drink and wonders aloud why a game would be made with so much conscience, questioning if the company even intended to earn money. Wang Guangjin passionately disagrees. In his eyes, Boss Pei is an upright person, a noble creator who refuses to earn dirty money from his players, unlike other companies. Another friend points out the harsh reality. No matter how much conscience a game has, it will be impossible for it to become popular without any promotion. Huang Sibo then chimes in, suggesting that they should help advertise it. Filled with a sense of loyalty, Wang Guangjin declares that since Boss Pei treated them so generously, he feels he must repay this kindness. He pulls out his phone, a plan forming in his mind. He is part of a group with many well-known artists, and decides he will beg them to help spread the word about the game. Night falls over the city, and Wang Guangjin's plan is set in motion, unbeknownst to Pei Qian. Meanwhile, back at the office, the initial results for the game are in. Huang Sibo sits dejectedly at his computer as Pei Qian looks over his shoulder. He wonders aloud if the game they made is really so trashy that no one is interested in it at all. He continues to lament, comparing their game's handful of downloads to the millions that other newly released games get on their first day. His visible disappointment sets the stage for Boss Pei to offer some encouragement. Pei Qian pats the dejected Huang Sibo on the shoulder, offering hollow words of comfort. He tells him not to worry, that most new games face similar situations, and that things will get better with time. Inwardly, however, Pei Qian is celebrating. Like hell it will, he thinks with a smug smile. He knows the game has no exposure channels, so there's no way it could possibly get any downloads. Still feeling down, Huang Sibo sighs and decides to give it one last look, wondering if there have been any changes in the 3 hours that have passed. Pei Qian confidently opens a bottle of water, thinking to himself that even if 3 days or a month passed, no one would ever pay attention to this game. He joyfully takes a drink, dreaming of his victory. If he can just endure until the next settlement date, the entire 300,000 from the system fund will be his to keep. Suddenly, Huang Sibo's voice cuts through his daydream. "It's here," he exclaims with wide, sparkling eyes. "Our game's downloads have increased. A lot of people left reviews, and all of them are 5 stars. The shock is so great that Pei Qian does a perfect spit take, spraying water everywhere. His victory celebration comes to a screeching halt. Struck by disbelief and horror, he grabs Huang Sibo, demanding to know what he just said. Pei Qian stares at the screen in horror. The game's official page shows a total average rating of 5 stars, with over 1,236 players having left a review. He scrolls through the reviews. One player, Evil Smiling Rabbit, calls it the most conscientious game ever, a comment that has over 2,500 likes. When another player complains about the 10 yuan price, they are immediately shut down by others who praise the game's fair, one-time purchase model. Pei Qian's mind is reeling. Thousands of downloads, all 5-star reviews? It felt utterly impossible. His perfect plan was crumbling before his eyes. The shock is too much. His soul seems to literally exit his body as he stumbles backward, away from the terrifyingly successful results on the monitor. He collapses onto his bed in utter despair, slamming his fists into the mattress and screaming internally, "What's going on with this world?" He buries his face in his pillow, racking his brain. Everything had been going so perfectly. Where did it all go wrong? Just then, a cheerful Huang Sibo bursts in, completely oblivious to his boss's existential crisis, calling out, "Brother Qian! Brother Qian!" Annoyed by the interruption to his misery, Pei Qian peeks out from under his pillow to see what he wants. Huang Sibo, beaming with joy, tries to cheer him up. "I know you spent a lot of effort on this game. The suffering is over and the good times are here. You must be excited." He advises him not to get overexcited, as it's bad for the body. Pei Qian forces a pained grin. "Yeah, we did it," he mutters while his inner voice screams, "Do I look excited? I'm feeling despair right now." After Huang Sibo leaves, Pei Qian sits up, resigning himself to the disaster. "Whatever," he sighs. There's no use crying over spilled milk, but he can't let it go. He returns to his desk with a determined look. He has to figure out what went wrong with his plan. As he scrolls through the game's page again, his eyes snap open. A detail in the comments catches his attention. He sees a common thread. Player after player is praising the game's incredible art. He's baffled. Since he didn't run any promotions, he can't figure out where players would have seen the art. "Don't tell me," he thinks. A dreadful suspicion begins to form. He quickly opens the social media site Weibo and types Ghost General into the search bar. The search results reveal the source of his misery. A post from Ruan Guangjin, showcasing the game's concept art, has gone viral, shared and praised by countless industry experts. Pei Qian stares in disbelief, wondering who on earth could have such influence to make so many experts repost and promote Ghost General. Then, his eyes lock onto the name at the top of the post. The terrible truth hits him like a bolt of lightning. The one responsible for sabotaging his failure and making the game a success is none other than Ruan Guangjin. Seething with rage, Pei Qian furiously types on his keyboard. "So the problem was you?" he thinks. "Why are you putting so much effort into helping me promote it? Do you have too much free time?" He sends a direct, angry message to Ruan Guangjin. "Did you help promote Ghost General on Weibo?" Ruan Guangjin replies, completely oblivious to Pei Qian's fury. He explains that he felt it was unfair for such a conscientious game to go unnoticed, and that his artist friends were touched by Boss Pei's passion for spending his entire budget on the game. He humbly adds that the game's quality and his own art also played a part. Pei Qian grits his teeth in frustration. He's furious, but he can't lash out at someone who was trying to help. Through clenched teeth, he forces out the words, "Well, thank you very much." He sends a curt thanks message. Ruan Guangjin, full of optimism, wishes him good luck and expresses his hope to work together on more great games in the future, twisting the knife in Pei Qian's heart even further. 1 week later, the dreaded day of settlement has arrived. Pei Qian stands on a balcony, looking out at the city, bracing himself for the system's verdict. He stares out at the sky, a lone figure awaiting his fate. He had tried so hard to fail, but the world seemed to conspire against him. The wealth conversion system interface appears before him. The settlement begins. His system fund stands at a terrifying 514,723.5. As the conversion process completes, his personal wealth increases by a mere 2,147.2, but the system fund remains massive. The devastating truth hits him. In just 1 week, Ghost General's net income was around $500,000, meaning the gross was a full $1 million. His plan had backfired spectacularly. Tears of despair streamed down his face. The game earned back its cost and netted $200,000. Yet due to the terrible 100-to-1 profit conversion ratio, his personal wealth only converted to 2,000 yuan. Who the hell can stand this, he cries. But the nightmare isn't over. A new notification from the system appears, stating that his mental well-being is collapsing. The next settlement will be 90 days later, and the target amount is now a staggering 500,000. The system explains its rules. It tops up the system fund at every settlement. However, because Pei Qian's fund already exceeds the target amount of 51,000, no additional funds will be credited. He is now stuck with a huge sum of money that he must spend. The reality of his new predicament sinks in, and it's horrifying. The game has already earned 500,000 in its first week. With the next settlement 3 months away, he grimly estimates a potential net income of 6 million. Desperate, he starts brainstorming ways to burn through this massive amount of cash. He calculates that renting a luxurious, expensive workplace could cost around 400,000 a month. He then considers hiring a large number of employees. 30 workers, he figures, would cost about 200,000 a month in salaries. And what about equipment? Surely outfitting a large office with top-of-the-line computers and furniture would allow him to spend at least $1 million, right? He sighs, feeling overwhelmed. Searching for a workplace, hiring workers, buying equipment. All of it feels incredibly troublesome, and he has no experience with any of it. Just as he's stressing over the logistics, a hand claps him on the shoulder. It's Huang Sibo, his face beaming with excitement. Brother Qian, the game is getting popular. Does this mean we can go eat some luxurious food? Pei Qian forces a smile. Sure, let's go. He remembers promising to treat Huang to an all-you-can-eat buffet once they earned money. Though the earning money part was a disaster for him, he decides to keep his word. After the unexpected success of the game, Mayong finds his friend, Pei Qian, on the stairs looking troubled. He asks why Pei Qian seems to have a lot on his mind, even though the game was a success. Pei Qian quickly puts on a smile and waves dismissively. He lies, claiming he's not worried, just tired from being too busy with the game and needing some rest. In reality, he's devastated that his plan to lose money failed. Believing his friend is overworked, Mayong suggests that since Pei Qian is now a company boss, he should hire an assistant to handle the work instead of doing everything himself. The idea surprises Pei Qian. Mayong continues, explaining his idea is based on TV dramas where a bossy president drives luxury cars and flirts with girls, leaving all the actual work to a beautiful secretary. He paints a picture of a carefree life for Pei Qian. A light bulb goes off in Pei Qian's head. He realizes Mayong's silly idea is actually a brilliant new opportunity. He could hire an assistant specifically to help him spend, and ultimately lose, a lot of money. Pei Qian excitedly grabs Mayong, calling him a genius. He declares that he doesn't just need an assistant, but a top-tier, professional assistant who can supposedly do everything, thinking this will maximize his expenses. Filled with a new fighting spirit, Pei Qian clenches his fist. He imagines this new assistant will help him burn through cash by renting a workplace, hiring more people, and buying expensive equipment, getting his money-losing plan back on track. The scene shifts to the customer service center of Exxon Headhunting Company in Jinzhou City. Pei Qian sits on the couch, waiting to enact the next phase of his plan. A sign on the wall ironically reads, "Heaven rewards the diligent." A man in a suit opens the door and greets Boss Pei. He introduces himself as Lawrence, the regional manager for the headhunting firm, expressing his pleasure in meeting him. Pei Qian shakes hands with manager Lawrence and gets straight to the point. He states clearly that his purpose for coming is to hire an assistant. Lawrence asks if he has any specific requirements. Without hesitation, Pei Qian waves his hand and declares his one and only condition. He wants the most expensive assistant they can find. A moment later, a stack of resumes is slapped onto the table in front of Pei Qian, representing the candidates for the position. As Pei Qian looks through the files, Lawrence explains that these are the most talented head assistant candidates in the entire province. He guarantees that their speech, behavior, and conduct are all proper and disciplined. Pei Qian's eyes land on the resume of a candidate named Xian Hailu. He notices that while she used to be an assistant for a VP at a famous foreign company, the reason for her resignation is left blank, which piques his interest. Lawrence responds with a knowing smile, asking if Boss Pei perhaps doesn't watch the news very often, suggesting the reason for her resignation is public knowledge. Completely out of the loop, Pei Qian looks up in genuine confusion, a question mark popping up beside his head as he asks, "What news?" The story is then revealed. Xian Hailu's former boss, a vice president, made inappropriate advances toward her when he was drunk. She responded by slapping him hard. Since the VP wasn't dismissed, she chose to resign voluntarily. Hearing this, Pei Qian is ecstatic. To him, this doesn't sound like a tough cookie, but a problem employee. Perfect for his plan. He immediately declares, "She's a Wonder Woman. All right, I choose her," before adding that he has one request. Lawrence maintains his professional smile, assuring Pei Qian that they can discuss any type of request he might have. Pei Qian lays out his bizarre condition. The new assistant can only provide suggestions when he specifically asks for them. In any other situation, no matter what happens, she must remain completely silent and ask nothing. This is his safeguard to prevent her from making his ventures profitable. Lawrence, misinterpreting the request as a desire for an exceptionally discreet and professional assistant, readily agrees. He smiles, noting that this is the kind of essential professionalism expected from a head assistant anyway. 3 days later, on a Monday, the scene shifts to a bustling city center, with sunlight glinting off towering skyscrapers. A sleek black luxury car pulls up to the curb, drawing the attention of passers-by on the street, who look on with curiosity and admiration. The door of the luxury car opens, and a single, elegant high-heeled shoe steps onto the pavement, signaling a grand entrance. The camera pans up to fully reveal Xian Hailu, Pei Qian's newly hired assistant. A caption confirms her role and her staggering 30,000 salary, the perfect, high-cost component for Pei Qian's money-losing machine. Xian Hailu professionally opens the car door for her new boss, announcing, "Boss Pei, we've arrived." Pei Qian looks out, slightly dazed, at the start of his next big spending venture. Pei Qian stands triumphantly before the Manhua View building. With his new assistant beside him, he internally declares his intention to conquer Jingzhou City's most luxurious and expensive office building as the next step in his money-losing plan. The sound of a soft ding marks their arrival as the elevator doors open onto the 17th floor, bringing them closer to a massive potential expense. A real estate agent greets them and, understanding that Boss Pei doesn't want a co-share, suggests the entire 17th floor. He pitches it as a high-end space with lovely scenery, offering to give them a tour. Pei Qian stands by the floor-to-ceiling windows, hands in his pockets, as he silently gazes out and takes in the view, considering the space. The view from the 17th floor overlooks a serene park and lake. Even Pei Qian, who is only focused on the cost, has to admit to himself that the scenery is not bad. The agent, trying to be helpful, inadvertently throws a wrench in Pei Qian's plans by mentioning that newly established companies can receive government subsidies and favorable rental deposit terms, which would reduce his overall costs. Ignoring the dreadful news about subsidies, Pei Qian turns and cuts straight to the chase, asking the only question that matters to him. "What's the price?" The agent smiles brightly, holding up 4 fingers. He announces the price is 4 yuan per square meter per day, and begins to explain that while it's a bit expensive for the area, it guarantees quality and enhances a company's image. Pei Qian blurts out in disbelief, "For yuan? It's so cheap." His reaction leaves the agent utterly shocked and speechless, dropping his popsicle in confusion. Trying to recover, the agent clarifies that the floor is around 3,000 square meters, making the monthly rental a whopping 450,000 yuan. He silently appraises Pei Qian, noting his low-profile appearance seems at odds with his ability to hire Xian Hailu and consider such a price. Pei Qian's spirit deflates. He had estimated the price to be 1 yuan higher, and he's devastated by the realization that he will now lose 90,000 yuan less every month than he had hoped for. Completely missing Pei Qian's internal despair, the agent smiles pleasantly and asks if he is satisfied with the environment, confident he is about to close a major deal. Despite his disappointment with the cheap price, Pei Qian makes a firm decision. He declares, "I'll rent this level." He is determined to lose as much money as he can, especially since his game, Ghost General, is annoyingly profitable. Overjoyed by the quick decision, the agent clasps his hands in delight and exclaims that he will get the contract ready right away. With the rental agreement settled and the agent gone, Pei Qian now stands alone with his assistant, Xian Hailu, ready to outline the next steps of his extravagant spending plan. Pei Qian begins lecturing his new assistant, putting on the air of a thoughtful boss. He explains that a good working environment is crucial for performance and company image, all as a pretext for his lavish spending. Xian Hailu listens intently, taking notes. His first command, the office tables. He declares they must not only be expensive, but also classy, pointing towards an imaginary, luxurious desk to illustrate his point. Next on the list are the computers. He demands only the best, highest quality machines, complete with mechanical keyboards, mice, and dual monitors for everyone, justifying it as a necessary boost to productivity for a game company. He then adds another layer of expense. They must have plants so workers can relax. Since plants are difficult to grow, he reasons, they will need to hire a dedicated worker just to take care of them. Pei Qian continues, pointing to an empty space and declaring it suitable for a small-scale gym. He argues that since gaming weakens the body, physical fitness is essential for employees to work properly. He concludes his list with demands for a parlor, complete with a sofa, tea table, high-grade teaware, and expensive tea leaves for business talks. Without missing a beat, the highly professional Yahello simply says, "Understood, I'll get it ready as soon as possible." Breaking her silence for the first time without being prompted, Yahello respectfully asks for a budget, inquiring, "What is the total price that is acceptable for you?" Pei Qian thoughtfully gives a budget between 500,000 and 800,000 for the office furnishings. Internally, he checks that this large sum won't trigger any warnings from his system, and is relieved to see it's a valid expense. This was just the first step of his spending plan. Looking out over the city, Pei Qian mentally tallies his victories. The deposit, a month's rent, and nearly $1 million in office equipment meant he had successfully burned through 1.5 million yuan. With the office settled, he was ready for the next phase, upgrading his personal appearance to match his new, money-losing lifestyle. The scene transitions to another money-spending opportunity, a high-end men's clothing store in a luxury mall. Pei Qian's shopping spree is about to begin. Pei Qian is being fitted into a sharp, tailored suit. Panels highlight the fine details, the watch on his wrist, the cut of the lapel, and the expensive-looking shoes, all part of his new boss persona. Looking at his reflection in the mirror, Pei Qian adjusts his cufflink. He is momentarily speechless, seeing himself transformed into a well-dressed businessman. His assistant, Yahello, explains that the brand Jessie is a luxury fashion label with over 100 years of history, famous for its flawless tailoring. She offers to find an even more luxurious, custom brand if he's not satisfied, though it would take longer. Eager to spend money quickly, Pei Qian waves off the suggestion of waiting for custom tailoring. He smiles and confirms that this expensive brand will do just fine. Yahello, ever the efficient assistant, presents 3 suits chosen for him. She explains that one is a formal suit for important events, while the other 2 are more casual and can be worn as daily outfits. Pei Qian smoothly agrees. Internally, a chibi version of him celebrates, overjoyed that there's no warning from the system, which means this money can be spent without issue. To inflate the costs even more, Pei Qian instructs the shop assistant to prepare 2 sets of each suit, ensuring the patterns and accessories are different. The shop assistant agrees as Yahello gives a subtle V sign in the background, signaling her approval of the efficient shopping. As a shop assistant takes his measurements, Pei Qian is thrilled with his own genius idea. Getting 2 sets for each suit? Good job, he congratulates himself internally. While Pei Qian is being measured, Yahello proactively offers to purchase some casual outfits for him later to save him the trouble. Happy to delegate the money spending, he casually agrees. As the assistant kneels to measure his trousers, Pei Qian looks at his reflection, feeling smug. To him, Yahello's proactive spending suggestions are the height of professionalism. Their shopping spree complete, they drive across a bridge as the sun sets, casting a warm glow over the city skyline. While driving, Yahello presents a clipboard to Pei Qian. She informs him that it's the finalized purchase list based on their earlier discussion in the office. Pei Qian reviews the absurdly expensive list. A bonsai for 366 yuan, money trees, a 90,000 yuan sofa set, a 13,000 yuan tea tray with 27,000 yuan tea leaves, and 30 sets of high-end gaming computers for a total of 600,000 yuan. But then, Yahello delivers a soul-crushing report. She proudly states that all products were bought through proper channels at the lowest possible on-site price, declaring that the company will never spend any pointless expenses. Her words echo in Pei Qian's mind as they pull up to their next destination. Never spend any pointless expenses is the exact opposite of his company's entire philosophy. Pei Qian looks out the car window, his face a mask of pure shock and horror. His perfect plan to burn money has been expertly and efficiently dismantled by his professional assistant. Continuing from the last chapter, Pei Qian's new assistant, Yahello, proves her efficiency. She hands him a wallet, informing him, "I've rented an apartment with 2 bedrooms near your school according to your instruction. The access card and key are in here." Pei Qian opens the wallet and finds the address card inside. He muses internally that, as expected, the system didn't issue a warning. While buying clothes and renting a house seems unrelated to the business, it's a necessary expense for the boss's image. With their tasks for the day done, Yahello prepares to drop Pei Qian off. She tells him to get some rest, and that the new outfits they bought will be delivered to his new house in a few days. Pei Qian simply acknowledges her. As they drive, Pei Qian informs his assistant, "From next week onward, I will interview the applicants in the small meeting room." Xian Hailu understands, replying, "At that time, I'll have to trouble you to prepare the documents." Xian Hailu gives a warm, professional smile. She reassures him, "Of course, this is my job after all." Her competence is exactly what Pei Qian didn't want, but he has to make do. After being dropped off, Pei Qian watches as Xian Hailu's car drives away into the sunset. Walking down the pavement, Pei Qian contemplates his next move. With his personal affairs settled, it's time to focus on the company. He thinks, "I've done buying clothes and renting a house. Now I need to consider what kind of people I should hire." His mind starts racing, weighing his options. They can't be too excellent since it will affect my plan, he thinks, picturing a sharp, suit-clad professional. They can't be too useless either since we still need to make the game. He continues, imagining a punk rock youth. He needs to strike a perfect, money-losing balance. Pei Qian realizes the difficulty in his recruitment criteria. A simple online ad would only attract competent people, but he can't exactly put "come to waste time" in the job description. He's stuck in a conundrum. Suddenly, an idea strikes him like a bolt of lightning. A memory surfaces. "That's right," he exclaims in his mind. He remembers that during his university years, there was another notorious talent besides Ma Yang at Handong University. With a new sense of purpose, Pei Qian heads towards his old campus, walking through the familiar university grounds at dusk. He reminisces about the target he has in mind. This person was a complete slob during his first year, always holed up in an internet cafe, rarely changing his clothes, and even wearing a sweater and long johns in the middle of summer. His academic performance was a disaster. He flunked out in his second year after failing too many subjects. To survive, he lived in an internet cafe for years, grinding games, offering boosting services, and selling in-game items. He was a true gaming degenerate. A confident smile spreads across Pei Qian's face. This person is the perfect candidate to help him lose money. He thinks with certainty. Found him. The scene shifts to the person in question, a man with long, unkempt hair sitting amidst multiple monitors. This is Bao Su, a legendary figure in the gaming world known as Autumn Pant's brother, an emperor of grinding games. Bao Su is completely engrossed in his game, his eyes glued to the screen, skillfully managing his characters in the virtual world, oblivious to his surroundings. Pei Qian approaches the engrossed gamer from behind. He calls out his name twice, trying to get his attention. "Bao Su! Bao Su!" Startled, Bao Su finally pulls his headphones off one ear and turns around, a large question mark appearing above his head as he looks at the stranger who called him. With a look of mild confusion and annoyance, Bao Su asks, "Are you looking for me?" Pei Qian puts on a charming smile and gets straight to the point. "I have a job for you. Are you willing to do it?" Internally, he's ecstatic. Hiring a hardcore gamer at a high salary is a perfect loophole the system won't complain about. He continues his internal scheming, a sly grin on his face. He believes that just because someone is good at playing games doesn't mean they're good at making them. In fact, Bao Su might just bash his head against a brick wall and ruin the whole thing. He's the perfect saboteur. Bao Su, however, is completely uninterested. He assumes Pei Qian is offering him a menial job and dismisses him with a tired expression. Being a manager of an internet cafe? Not interested. Pei Qian clarifies, that's not it. The job is to be a designer. To prove his seriousness, he places a thick wad of cash on the desk. "If you are willing, then this will be your advance payment." He then delivers the final, irresistible blow. "Moreover, our company has the best computer with 2 monitors. You're free to play games as you like." Upon hearing this, Bao Su's eyes widen in utter shock, his mind short-circuiting at the impossible offer. Struggling to process the offer, Bao Su stammers, "Are you serious?" The offer of money, respect, and unlimited gaming was beyond anything he could have imagined. He cautiously asks, "Then what do I do for my job?" Wondering what the catch could possibly be. Pei Qian explains the role simply. Playing games. He elaborates that Bao Su's job will be to experience games made by other companies, as well as their own, and provide immediate feedback on any problems he finds. Leaning back with a confident posture, Pei Qian adds that Bao Su can also participate in the design work and give advice. He frames it as a perfect opportunity, asking rhetorically, "I think you're suitable for this job, isn't that right?" Overwhelmed by the offer, Bao Su stammers, blushing with emotion. He can barely get the words out, saying, "I'm willing. Willing to consider it." Pei Qian places a hand on his shoulder and gives him his first instructions. "Then what you have to do right now is to take this 500 yuan to take a bath, trim your hair, and get a new set of clean clothes." As he leaves, Pei Qian waves goodbye and gives him the final details. "Our company is located at Shunhua View. As for when you will start working, I'll let you know on the phone. Please get ready." This concludes the recruitment of his first, hopefully disastrous, employee. Left alone, Bao Su stares at the crisp banknotes Pei Qian left on the table. For someone who has been living hand-to-mouth, this is a significant amount of money. The weight of the moment crashes down on him. Holding the money, Bao Su is moved to tears, his face contorting with emotion after years of being treated as a failure. He collapses onto the desk, weeping uncontrollably. Clutching the money, he sobs. I was finally appreciated by someone. Pei Qian's manipulation has unintentionally given Bao Su a profound sense of hope and validation. The scene changes, showing a low-angle shot of a massive, modern skyscraper reaching into a bright, cloud-filled sky. This is Shenhua View, the location of Pei Qian's new company. A young man with orange-blonde hair stands before the impressive building, looking up at its grand facade. He carries a shoulder bag and appears to be a new applicant. This is Huang Sibo, an administrative planner from a company called Shangyang Game, with a meager monthly income of 1,500 yuan. He's here for an interview, surprised that Tengda, the creator of his favorite games, is based here. Huang Sibo enters the building's lavish lobby, looking around with a mix of awe and nervousness as business professionals walk past him. He walks hesitantly through the bustling lobby, looking somewhat intimidated and out of his element compared to the sharply dressed corporate employees around him. Huang Sibo waits for the elevator, his reflection visible on the polished doors. A ding sound indicates its arrival on the first floor. As the elevator doors open, a stern-looking, middle-aged man in a suit appears. An introduction box identifies him as Old Lu, Shangyang Game's chief planner, with a monthly income of 7,000 yuan. Huang Sibo's eyes widen in shock and disbelief. He can't believe his old boss is here. Old Lu. Why is he here? He thinks, completely stunned. Forcing a nervous smile, Huang Sibo raises a hand and greets his superior with a respectful but shaky, "Be our brother Lu." Old Lu looks down on him with a condescending smirk. This company's demands are very high. I don't think you can get hired, he says, immediately crushing Huang Sibo's confidence. Old Lu continues his verbal assault, smugly adding, "To think you still have the free time to come for an interview. It looks like the tasks given to you are insufficient. Go and redo the value table again when you go back." Huang Sibo is horrified. As Old Lu walks away, Huang Sibo watches him go, sweating and confused. He wonders, I didn't expect Old Lu to come for an interview. Is he here for Tengda's interview too? The elevator dings again as it ascends, the display showing it is now headed to the 17th floor. Stepping out of the elevator, Huang Sibo is completely dejected. He thinks, Old Lu must have failed. If even Old Lu didn't get accepted, then I guess I won't have any chance either. He will definitely take it out on me once I return to the company. Despite his despair, Huang Sibo approaches the reception desk of Tengda Network Technology Company. "Limited greetings, are you here for the interview?" the receptionist asks. He nervously stammers, "Ah yes, I'm here for the interview. My name is Huang Sibo." His anxiety is momentarily replaced by surprise as he does a double take, a blush creeping onto his face. He thinks to himself, the receptionists are twins? It's another unexpected, impressive detail about the company that sets it apart from his old workplace. While one of the twins professionally notifies the interviewer of his arrival, the other gives him a polite smile and gestures for him to proceed. "Please follow me," she says, setting the stage for his walk through the mysterious and impressive Tengda office. One of the twin receptionists leads a nervous Huang Sibo through the modern and sleek office space. As he walks, his eyes are drawn to the pristine workstations, each equipped with a brand-new dual-monitor setup, a luxury unheard of at his previous company. He also notices that for such a large and well-equipped office, it's strangely empty, with only a few employees scattered about. The word deserted comes to mind. The receptionist stops at a closed door and knocks gently, announcing their arrival. She opens the door for him, calling out, "Boss Pei," before turning to Huang Sibo and gesturing for him to enter. Inside, Huang Sibo finds himself in a spacious and minimalist office. The interviewer, dressed in a sharp suit, is already seated, calmly waiting for him. The man confirms his identity. "You're Huang Sibo, right? Please take a seat." He then introduces himself with a confident smile. "I'm the chairman of Tengda Network Technology Company, Ltd. Pei Qian." Completely intimidated by the opulent surroundings and the young, confident chairman, Huang Sibo bows nervously and stammers, "Greetings, Boss Pei." Pei Qian gestures towards a steaming cup on the table, trying to put him at ease. "Make yourself at home. We'll just be chatting casually. Please have a drink." Huang Sibo accepts the drink with a quiet, "Thanks." As he holds the cup, he's stunned by its quality. The cup is made of pure silver, he thinks in disbelief. This Boss Pei, does he not care about money at all? He has unknowingly stumbled upon Pei Qian's core philosophy. Taking a sip from his own cup, Pei Qian begins the interview with a simple request. "Please briefly talk about your working experience." Sitting awkwardly on the large sofa, Huang Sibo answers, "Previously, I worked at Shangyang Game." He notices Pei Qian smiling, and his anxiety immediately spikes. He misinterprets the friendly expression, thinking, "What is Boss Pei smiling about? Is he laughing at me for my overconfidence? Is it because I dared to come here for an interview with my capabilities?" His confidence plummets as his inner monologue continues. "A newcomer like me who has just recently stepped into this industry. It's certainly out of my league. Just as Huang Sibo is about to resign himself to failure, Pei Qian says one word that completely shatters his expectations. Excellent. Huang Sibo looks up, utterly dumbfounded. Pei Qian gives him a thumbs up and declares, "You met our company's requirements quite well. May I ask when you can start working?" Huang Sibo is left speechless, unable to comprehend what just happened. Still reeling from the shock, Huang Sibo scratches his head and stammers. "Ah, about that, the day after tomorrow." Pei Qian agrees readily. "Very good, then please bring your resignation procedures on that day, and we'll sign the official labor contract." He then gets to the most important part of his plan, the salary. "As for the salary, do you have any in mind?" Trying his luck, Huang Sibo nervously proposes, 2,100 yuan per month. "Do you think it's possible?" He justifies the small raise to himself, noting his half-year of experience. Pei Qian listens to the lowball offer. This is the opposite of what he wants. In his quest to lose money, such a modest salary simply won't do, and he will have to take matters into his own hands. In his office, Pei Qian massages his temples, feigning a headache. Across from him, the interviewee, Huang Sibo, panics, thinking he's ruined his chances by asking for too much money. Desperate, Huang Sibo clenches his teeth and pleads, saying he'd be happy with a salary that simply matches his previous, lower-paying job. Pei Qian, however, begins a peculiar lecture. He starts by calculating the cost of living, asking Huang Sibo to confirm the monthly rent and food expenses in Jingzhou. Leaning back comfortably, Pei Qian continues his detailed breakdown, adding the cost of new clothes and utilities to the running total. He then holds up 3 fingers, factoring in the extra expenses for pleasing a girlfriend during festivals or anniversaries. He's building a case, but not the one Huang Sibo expects. From a wide shot, Pei Qian concludes his calculations, adding transportation fees and a mandatory amount for savings. Looking at Huang Sibo, Pei Qian declares his grand total. To live a basic life, one needs at least 3,500 yuan a month. He frames it as the bare minimum required. Huang Sibo is stunned into silence. Pei Qian presses his advantage, stating that his company makes a promise to always pay higher salaries than others in the industry. Then comes the shocking offer. With a dramatic close-up, Pei Qian proposes a monthly salary of 4,000 yuan, far exceeding Huang Sibo's wildest expectations. Huang Sibo's face contorts in disbelief. This isn't a negotiation, it's the complete opposite. He wonders if all rich people are this bizarre. Still processing the absurd generosity, Huang Sibo scratches his head and stammers out his agreement, completely overwhelmed. With the deal settled, Pei Qian smiles and shakes his new employee's hand, welcoming him to Tungda Network Technology. Huang Sibo thanks him profusely, still in a daze. As Huang Sibo walks away into the main office area, his legs still trembling from the shock, Pei Qian watches him go, a sense of accomplishment on his face. Now alone, Pei Qian leans back in his chair, a smug smile playing on his lips. His plan to lose money by overpaying an employee with little experience is a success. This is his true hiring strategy, rejecting candidates with a lot of experience and a traditional mindset, while actively hiring passionate newcomers like Huang Sibo, whom he believes are perfect for his goal of burning cash. In a moment of self-congratulation, a chibi version of Pei Qian clenches his fist, thrilled that his money-losing venture is proceeding at such a good pace. 1 week later, the scene shifts to the front desk of Tungda Network Technology Company Limited. The company is now staffed and operational. From the doorway, we see the office is filled with employees. However, instead of working, they are all intensely focused on playing video games. The work environment is pure chaos. One employee stands up and yells at a colleague for stealing her in-game buff, showing just how seriously they take their work. Another employee showers praise on a player named Bao Su, calling him a pro and asking to be friends in the game. This is exactly the unproductive environment Pei Qian wanted to create. Just then, Ma Yang peeks into Pei Qian's office, addressing him as Brother Qian and announcing his arrival. Pei Qian, relaxing on the sofa, casually invites him in for some tea, maintaining his image as a laid-back boss. Ma Yang reports that the hiring has been so efficient that the workspace is almost full, a fact that he sees as a sign of great success. In response to his friend's question about the successful hiring, Pei Qian nonchalantly hands over a stack of resumes, telling him to see for himself. Ma Yang begins to flip through them, but his initial curiosity quickly turns into confusion. A single question mark appears above his head as he struggles to understand what he's seeing. Continuing from the previous scene, Ma Yang stares at the resumes with his eyes wide and sweating, unable to comprehend the hiring choices. His confusion turns to outright shock as the reality of the bizarre resumes sinks in. Question marks pop up around him as his mind short-circuits. Flipping through the documents, Ma Yang tentatively points out the obvious. None of the people hired seem to have much experience or any notable achievements. Concerned, he asks Pei Qian if finding a chief designer is proving difficult. suggesting that they offer more money or even hire professional headhunters to find a suitable candidate. Pei Qian calmly explains that there were plenty of applicants for the position, but he personally rejected all of them, much to Ma Yang's bewilderment. As Pei Qian stands up, a contemplative silence fills the room before he begins to explain his unconventional reasoning. Gazing out the window, Pei Qian starts his lecture. His first point: all the so-called chief designers have rigid mindsets and are incapable of embracing innovative ideas. Secondly, he continues, these designers demand exorbitant salaries, yet their actual performance and contribution are incredibly poor. Ma Yang, completely captivated by Pei Qian's seemingly profound business insights, immediately understands and accepts the explanation without question. Finally, Pei Qian delivers his most critical point. The passion these experienced designers once had for games has been completely worn out by the industry. While Ma Yang agrees with the logic, he raises a practical concern. If they don't hire a chief designer who will actually lead the new game project? Pei Qian sits back on the sofa, a quiet confidence about him, letting the question hang in the air for a moment before his grand reveal. With a sudden burst of energy and a confident smile, Pei Qian dramatically points to himself and proudly declares that he will be the one to lead the project. Ma Yang is flustered once again, scratching his head in confusion. He argues that Pei Qian is the boss and surely needs a proper chief designer to help him out. Pei Qian wags his finger, assuring Ma Yang that he's already found someone suitable for the role, mentioning that the guy named Huang Sibo is quite capable. However, in a private thought bubble, Pei Qian reveals his true motive. A competent chief designer would immediately spot the deliberate flaws in his money-losing plan. Ma Yang remains skeptical. He reviews Huang Sibo's resume, noting his minimal experience as an administrative planner, and questions if he can truly handle the job. Pei Qian dismisses his concerns with a wave of his hand, instructing Ma Yang not to get bogged down by job titles and to look at what Huang Sibo has actually accomplished. He reveals that at his previous company, Huang Sibo was responsible for doing 80% of the game's datasets and running errands, effectively acting as the chief designer's executive assistant. Ma Yang's eyes light up with realization. He declares Huang Sibo a hidden talent and enthusiastically suggests that a salary of 4,000 yuan is far too low for someone of his caliber. This backfires on Pei Qian, who internally panics at the thought of paying someone more than he already budgeted. He quickly covers, stating they can always adjust the salary later if his performance is good. Changing the subject, Pei Qian pivots to another one of his talented hires, Bao Su, hyping him up as a master of all classes and races in the game fantasy world, with 6 maxed-out accounts. Pei Qian argues that Bao Su's ability to master every role in a game and lead 40-man raids makes him perfectly suited to oversee a project's progress, twisting a gamer's hobby into a key management skill. Ma Yang is completely sold. With stars in his eyes, he gives a thumbs up, hailing Bao Su as a hidden genius. Brimming with enthusiasm, he eagerly asks the big question. Brother Qian, when do we officially start? A decisive smile forms on Pei Qian's lips. His plan is set. He makes a grand declaration, officially kicking off the next phase of his venture. There's no time like the present. We begin tomorrow. The next day, Pei Qian gathers his new employees in the office, telling them to pause their work for an important announcement. As Boss Pei makes his entrance, the employees are immediately captivated. The female staff swoon over their handsome new boss, while the others look on in admiration. Addressing the crowd, Pei Qian declares that after a few days of preparation, he believes everyone is ready. He officially announces that work will begin tomorrow. Huang Sibo is overcome with emotion, clapping enthusiastically. He's finally found a company that appreciates him and is ready to dedicate himself completely, even if it means pulling all-nighters. In his mind, he eagerly anticipates the grueling 996 work culture, viewing the intense pressure and long hours as a badge of honor and a sign of a thriving tech company. With tears of joy streaming down his face, he steels his resolve. He believes the excellent salary and comfortable environment make any hardship worth it, and he is ready to endure anything. Pei Qian raises his fist in the air and shouts, "All right," before delivering the twist. To celebrate the official start of work, everyone can get off work for the day, right now. Huang Sibo's triumphant expression instantly vanishes, replaced by a dark, shadowy look of utter disbelief and confusion. In a thought bubble, Pei Qian lays out his master plan for wasting time. Since it's Friday, they get off early. Saturday and Sunday are off days, and Monday is single day, which he declares a company holiday. The employees shuffle out of the office in a daze, completely baffled. The clock on the desk clearly shows the time is only 3:02 p.m., and they're already being sent home. The scene shifts to Monday, single day. The company building stands empty and quiet against the night sky, a testament to Pei Qian's successful attempt at enforcing a long holiday. Meanwhile, Pei Qian is relaxing in his luxurious apartment, casually tossing an apple, satisfied with his perfectly executed plan to maximize leisure and minimize productivity. Lying on his couch, he begins to strategize. With work officially starting the next day, he needs to decide what kind of game to develop to guarantee the biggest financial losses. His mind transforms into a boardroom. A banner hangs overhead, announcing the start of the third money-losing war council, where different aspects of his personality gather to plot. The council chairman, a chibi version of Pei Qian, calls the meeting to order. Another glasses-wearing chibi eagerly raises his hand, ready to present the first point. The intellectual chibi explains their primary challenge. They must steer the project in the wrong direction, but do so subtly enough that the passionate, hard-working employees won't notice the sabotage. Another chibi calmly sips his tea, pointing out that the mobile game market is booming. To avoid accidentally creating a hit, they should stay away from mobile games entirely. A more aggressive chibi, channeling an orc warrior, suggests a bold move. Create a PC client-based MMORPG to directly compete with the current market titan, Fantasy World. But the intellectual chibi pushes back, highlighting the risk. What if they accidentally create another legendary success like Eastward Legend 1? For their goals, that would be an utter disaster. Suddenly, another chibi slams the table, having a eureka moment. He excitedly suggests they make a game in that specific genre, one known for being notoriously difficult to succeed in. The gamer chibi agrees, pointing out that since an extremely successful game already dominates that genre, any new competitor is almost guaranteed to fail. The intellectual chibi makes the final point. The production requirements for that genre are incredibly high, far beyond the capabilities of their inexperienced team. It's the perfect formula for failure. The council is unanimous. They decide to move forward with the plan, adding specific modifications to the process that are bound to fail. They are absolutely certain that this time, they will finally be able to lose money. The scene shifts to the morning of Tuesday, November 12th. The sun shines brightly on the Tengdao office building as the first official day of work begins, setting the stage for Pei Qian's next grand, money-losing scheme. The scene opens in the meeting room of Tengdao Network Technology Company. Limited employees are seated around a long table, ready for a briefing. The employees, including a man with long brown hair, another with orange hair, and one with glasses, are diligently taking notes. On the other side of the table, more employees listen intently. A woman with brown hair works on her laptop, while a man with a bowl cut listens on. At the head of the table, the boss, Pei Qian, announces the company's next venture, a first-person shooting game, or FPS. An employee with orange hair is shocked. He can't believe they are developing a client-based FPS game right after the success of their mobile game, Ghost General. One of the employees starts to speak up, calling out to the boss, but Pei Qian quickly cuts him off, stating firmly that they will not be working on any more mobile game projects. Pei Qian passionately declares that Tengdao's goal is to become a leader in the games industry. They can't be blinded by insignificant mobile games or be satisfied with small accomplishments. This is not their character. He rallies the room with a powerful statement. For us Tengdao, we either go home or go big. His speech works wonders. The entire room erupts in applause, their faces showing renewed motivation and excitement. The employees are completely won over, with the orange-haired man exclaiming that Boss Pei is on a whole different level. Pei Qian gives a slight, confident smirk, his true plan to lose money perfectly concealed behind his inspiring words. He begins to outline the project details. Pei Qian points directly at two employees, Huang Sibo, Bao Su. Both of you will be in charge. He assigns Bao Su to lead the design concept and Huang Sibo as the chief planner to execute it. The orange-haired man, Huang Sibo, is stunned. He just went from a simple administrative planner to a chief planner, a career jump that should have taken 6 years. With the leaders assigned, Pei Qian raises 3 fingers and lays out his 3 demands for the new game. His first demand: the game must have a rich story mode. He wants it to have depth and substance, not just be a pure player versus player battle. His second demand: they must cater to new gamers by making the game as easy as possible to get into. Finally, his third demand: they must create epic weapons. As for the price, he sets it at a staggering 888 yuan for permanent ownership, leaving the trial period cost up to the team. With his loss-making plan laid out, Pei Qian smiles sweetly, surrounded by imaginary flowers, and innocently asks if there are any questions. Before anyone can even formulate a question, Pei Qian speaks again, taking their silence as agreement. It looks like there's no opinion from everyone. Very well. The employees can only think to themselves that he never even gave them a chance to speak, but they continue to applaud, swept up in his charisma. Pei Qian gets up from his chair and gives his final instructions. He gives the design team a week to come up with a draft. He turns to Bao Su, the long-haired employee, and puts him in charge of the creative aspect and the general direction of the project. Bao Su accepts with a determined understood. Next, he addresses Huang Sibo, the orange-haired planner, who will be responsible for refining the project and assigning tasks. Huang enthusiastically responds, "Yes, sir." Finally, Pei Qian turns to Ma Yang, the employee with the bowl-cut hair. He instructs Ma Yang that his primary job is to learn from the team and assist them however he can. Ma Yang, looking slightly overwhelmed by the pace of it all, simply agrees. Having delegated all the roles, Pei Qian gives a final, cheerful wave. He encourages the team to inform him of any issues, especially regarding money, telling them not to be shy. With a brisk dismissed, he brings the meeting to an end, leaving his highly motivated team behind. Alone, Pei Qian smirks, confident that his plan is unfolding perfectly. He mentally lists the flaws he has baked into the project. A high-risk, low-reward story mode in an FPS, gameplay changes that will alienate elite players, and a ridiculously expensive paywall weapon. He considers the market, noting that a successful FPS game called Counter-Strike already dominates, praised for its superior hand sensitivity. As he walks out triumphantly, he pictures the guaranteed failure. An FPS with worse controls than its main competitor, resources wasted on a useless story mode, and guns sold at exorbitant prices. Back in the meeting room, Huang Sibo and Bao Su are left to ponder the impossible task, especially since no one on the team has any experience making an FPS game. The remaining employees murmur amongst themselves. They think it would be a surprise if a game like this could even pass the approval stage, let alone earn any money. For Pei Qian, the conclusion is obvious as the doors slam shut on his way out. Earning money from this project? Impossible. Night falls over the city, but the lights in the Qingdao office building remain on. Inspired by his boss's speech, Huang Sibo works diligently late into the night, determined to finish the work even if it means working overtime. Just then, Bao Su approaches him, holding a piece of paper. "Brother Huang, I've almost finished the draft," he says. Huang Sibo looks up from his keyboard, surprised and intrigued. Ever the considerate colleague, Huang Sibo grabs a spare chair for Bao Su, inviting him to sit down so they can discuss the draft. Bao Su sits and gets straight to the point. He thinks two of Boss Pei's demands can be met easily, but the story mode is problematic. They can't possibly compete with the resources of massive overseas FPS games. Huang Sibo listens intently, stroking his chin as he agrees with Bao Su's assessment. Bao Su presents his theory. Boss Pei is known for making low-risk, high-reward bets. Therefore, this project must be a test. He concludes that their focus must be on aggressive cost-cutting to save as much money as possible. Bao Su's first cost-cutting idea relates to the character. Since the game is in a first-person POV, they can drastically reduce costs by not needing a detailed 3D model for the main character. For enemies, he suggests a zombie theme. This would limit their enemy types to just zombies and mercenaries, and they could simply modify the base templates to create variety, saving on design costs. Huang Sibo understands the logic, but raises a valid point. Creating a compelling story with only zombies and mercenaries would be difficult. They would need side characters to add depth. Bao Su proudly presents his solution from the draft. They only need one side character, a little girl. And to save even more money, he plans to make her mute. Huang Sibo is taken aback by the suggestion. A mute side character? The idea is unconventional, to say the least. Bao Su explains it's a strategic compromise. A speaking character would require expensive voice actors and complex mouth animations. By making her mute, her actions, facial expressions, and movements alone will illustrate the story. He paints a picture of the little girl as a ray of light in the darkness, a character that provides emotional support for the player, preventing the game from becoming a mindless shooter. Furthermore, the girl can be a key part of gameplay, participating in puzzle solving. For instance, she could climb through a small ventilation tunnel to unlock a door for the main character. Huang Sibo is impressed, admitting the idea is quite good. He then shifts the topic to the game's setting, asking how the background story should be handled, noting the concept of a crucial stronghold on the sea from Bao's design. Bao Su proudly lays out the entire game scenario with a flowchart. At its heart is an evil corporation experimenting with a virus on a crucial stronghold built above the sea. The player's main goal is to escape, all while protecting a mute 12-year-old girl who was kidnapped for her unique blood, which is key to the corporation's human modification experiments. This setting, he concludes, is another genius cost-saving measure. By limiting the game's scenes to the stronghold's dilapidated rooms and corridors, they can heavily reuse assets and save a fortune on creating a large, open world. Bao Su continues to flesh out the environment details. The walls and floors of the stronghold will be covered in stains from the virus, and the rooms will be cluttered with debris. To save on creating unique assets, he suggests that some places will be completely destroyed while others will be severely damaged, allowing them to reuse and modify existing scenes. With this method, by simply modifying a few core scenes, they can create several different results and cover all the cutscenes needed for the game. Huang Sibo is ecstatic, declaring the idea excellent. Bao Su, encouraged, elaborates further on the game's content. They expand on the little girl's role. She carries a special antibody, which is why the evil corporation captured her. Her blood can be used to heal the main character if they're caught or bitten by zombies, with the little girl using a syringe to draw her own blood for the player. Huang Sibo adds another layer. What if the girl gets weaker every time she heals the player? This would force the player to improve their skills to protect her. Bao Su agrees, calling the idea brilliant. The two of them, fully absorbed, continue to work hard, fleshing out their perfectly misinterpreted plan. Huang Sibo gives a thumbs up, completely in awe. Brother Bao is too amazing. You can make the story logical, balanced, and emotional even with only a few resources. Bao Su humbly waves it off. He claims he's only completing Boss Pei's original vision, insisting this must be what their genius boss had in mind from the very beginning. Huang Sibo tells him he's being too humble, then pauses to think. He wonders if it's merely a coincidence that the solution Bao came up with so perfectly aligns with Boss Pei's 3 bizarre demands. He looks out the window at Boss Pei in his office, and concludes it can't be a coincidence. Boss Pei was able to create 2 successful games previously, he thinks. This must be the direction he had planned from the beginning. Huang Sibo turns back to Bao Su and asks about the remaining 2 demands. Bao Su explains that lowering the difficulty for newbies is simple. It's just a matter of adjusting the game's sensitivity. But when it comes to the epic weapons, Bao Su points a finger, a clever glint in his eyes. He declares that this demand is actually a key part of Boss Pei's lofty ambitions, leaving Huang Sibo confused. Bao Su explains that the demand for an 888 yuan weapon is a hint. It implies other tiers like normal and elite weapons must exist. By setting the price so high, Boss Pei is secretly telling them that he doesn't want to sell weapons for real money at all. A wave of realization hits Huang Sibo. So that's the case. They can use other methods, like sign-in rewards, for players to obtain weapons, which will increase playtime and retention. As expected of Boss Pei, he exclaims. Night deepens, and the office is now empty, save for the 2 planners who have cracked the code. Huang Sibo now feels everything is in order. He believes Boss Pei is using this subtle method of giving hints to nurture their talent and make them use their own brains. It's a test of their abilities. With renewed purpose, he saves the document. They must get this game done perfectly. They absolutely cannot disappoint Boss Pei. The scene transitions. A caption tells us the date is November 14th, Wednesday, as we see the outside of a university lecture building. Inside, Pei Qian is sitting through a monotonous lecture, one of many students in the large hall. He lets out a huge yawn. This is so boring, he thinks. I would have gone to the office to play games if it weren't for my fear of upsetting the employees by taking a break. Suddenly, his phone vibrates with an incoming notification. It's a new message from Huang Sibo. The message reads, Boss Pei, the design draft is almost done. What about taking a look at it to confirm the general direction? An attachment named designsdraft.docx is included. Pei Qian notes that it only took them 2 days. He notes how quickly they finished, wondering if 2 days is considered fast. Shrugging, he decides to have a look and casually taps the download button. His casual attitude immediately vanishes. A dense wall of text appears on his small screen, and he recoils in frustration. Damn, I'm going blind. How am I supposed to read so many words on a phone? He gripes internally. Sighing, Pei Qian decides to put his annoyance aside for a moment. Ugh, let's examine whether they fulfilled the 3 things I asked for, he thinks, resigned to at least skimming the document. He quickly scrolls through, checking off his list. Story mode, checked. They even planned for a 3-hour campaign. Lowering difficulty, checked. Epic weapons, checked. A permanent epic weapon for 888 yuan. They followed his instructions to the letter. A confident smile spreads across his face. Not bad. They did everything according to my demands, he thinks, completely satisfied that the project is on the fast track to failure. Without giving it another thought, he types a brief, encouraging reply to Huang Sibo. Not bad. Let's continue in this direction. Meanwhile, back at the Tengdao office, the entire team is working diligently late into the night, their keyboards clacking away. The atmosphere is buzzing with misplaced motivation. Bao Su, in particular, is in deep focus, headphones on and a controller in hand, intensely researching and working on the game mechanics. The team communicates efficiently. Bao Su sends a message to Huang Sibo with a recording of a storyline idea for him to check, and Huang Sibo quickly confirms he's received it. Huang Sibo puts on his headphones, ready to listen to the recording Bao Su sent over. As Huang Sibo focuses on the audio, Ma Yang walks up quietly behind him, his eyes widening as he takes in the sight of the entire team working overtime. The chapter ends with a close-up on Ma Yang's shocked and confused face, wondering just what is going on with his colleagues. The scene opens on the evening of Monday, November 18th, showing a modern, towering office building against the night sky. Inside, Pei Qian, the company's CEO, sits idly at his desk, resting his head on his hand in silence, looking thoroughly unmotivated. He checks his wealth conversion system, only to be horrified. The system fund has ballooned to over 970,000 yuan. He laments internally, thinking he had tried so hard to spend it all. Looking up from his desk with a weary expression, Pei Qian wonders to himself in frustration. Is it really that hard to lose money? Just then, a frantic knocking comes from his office door. Pei Qian calls out, asking who it is. His employee, Ma Yang, bursts into the room with a shocking discovery. He exclaims that Huang Sibo and others are secretly working overtime on the company's computers. The news hits Pei Qian like a lightning bolt. He grabs Ma Yang by the collar, shocked and furious. He can't believe his employees are working overtime despite his explicit instructions against it. Trying to understand the situation, Pei Qian calms down slightly and asks what exactly Huang Sibo is working on, documents or designs. Ma Yang hesitantly replies that he thinks Huang Sibo is actually just playing games. Hearing this, Pei Qian pauses. A small light bulb appears, indicating a sudden, brilliant idea has just struck him. The scene pulls back to a wider view of the luxurious office as Pei Qian contemplates this new information, with Ma Yang waiting nervously. Pei Qian turns back to Ma Yang and asks for confirmation one more time. Are you sure Huang Sibo is playing games? Ma Yang confirms, explaining that's why he rushed to report it. He suggests reprimanding them for wasting company resources, but Pei Qian suddenly cuts him off, shouting, "There's no need." A brilliant, money-wasting idea has formed in his mind. Letting them play games is a great way to burn through the system fund. Putting on a serious face, Pei Qian crafts an excuse. He tells Ma Yang that since they are a game company, the employees are simply learning from the advanced experiences of overseas games. Ma Yang is left completely baffled by this explanation, scratching his head in confusion as he tries to understand his boss's logic. With a new sense of purpose, Pei Qian stands up decisively from his chair. He walks past the still confused Ma Yang, striding towards his desk with determination. He slams both of his hands firmly down on his desk, ready to make a grand declaration. With a clenched fist and a passionate expression, Pei Qian declares that they can't just leave the employees alone. He proclaims that Tengda is a good company that keeps its employees' welfare at heart. He quickly opens his laptop, stating that national policies require companies to pay for overtime, and Tengda must adhere to them. He's found his perfect excuse to spend money. As he types furiously, Pei Qian announces the new overtime policy. Payment will be 1.5 times the hourly salary on weekdays and double on weekends, not a single cent less. He then hands a piece of paper over to Ma Yang, entrusting him with a new, very important task. Pointing a finger for emphasis, Pei Qian instructs Ma Yang to diligently record the overtime hours of every employee, promising he will pay them based on their rates without any deductions. With the new directive in hand, a stunned Ma Yang leaves the office. He glances back, still trying to process his boss's strange but incredibly generous decision. After Ma Yang leaves, Pei Qian leans back in his chair with a smug grin, thinking to himself, how could I forget about overtime pay? I'm a freaking genius. The next day in the afternoon, the Tengda office is quiet. Employees, including Bao Su, are eating at their desks while working. Elsewhere, Huang Sibo takes a deep, steadying breath. He exhales slowly, psyching himself up for what he has to do next. He knocks on the door to the CEO's office. "Boss Pei, it's me, Huang Sibo," he announces nervously. Pei Qian tells him to come in. Huang Sibo enters and presents a document, explaining, "Boss Pei, this is the current list of all the required resources that must be purchased online." Pei Qian, reflected in the laptop screen, simply replies, "All right." Pei Qian takes the list from Huang Sibo and invites him to sit down. Proud of his work, Huang Sibo explains that he tried his best to stay within the budget and that all the resources he found were cost-effective, with good quality and reasonable prices. He confidently asks if there are any problems. Pei Qian scans the list, and his heart sinks. The total is only 670,000 yuan. He thinks in despair, that's far too little. Why did they only spend 670k to purchase all these resources and features? An idea strikes Pei Qian. He forcefully hands the list back and commands, take it back and redo it. Double the budget. Internally, a chibi version of him celebrates, excited at the prospect of finally spending the entire system fund. Huang Sibo is completely dumbfounded, his eyes wide with shock at the unexpected command to spend more money. Recovering slightly, Huang Sibo speaks up again. Okay, Boss Pei. I still have a question. It's about the game's name. He explains that Bao Su suggested the name Ocean Stronghold, which he finds a bit odd. Admitting he's not good at naming things either, he asks Boss Pei to make the final decision. Pei Qian sinks into deep thought, a thoughtful hand on his chin. The name Ocean Stronghold sparks a faint memory, and he wonders why it sounds so familiar. Suddenly it clicks. Pei Qian has a flash of realization. The name is identical to a notoriously failed movie from his previous life. With newfound enthusiasm, Pei Qian points decisively and declares, Ocean Stronghold sounds good. Let's use this name. I like it. In a small panel below, a determined Huang Sibo agrees and promises to go fix the budget right away. Pei Qian leans back in his chair, feet propped up, looking completely satisfied. He muses on how his employees wouldn't know the name belongs to a movie that had a 300 million investment, but only made 100 million at the box office. A super bloody loss. He looks out at a dramatic vision of his game's world, thinking with confidence. If that movie can lose so much money, my game with a similar name can lose a couple of million yuan, right? The scene jumps forward to Friday, November 29th. The Tungdao office is bustling with activity as the team works hard on the new game. An employee points out an issue on screen to a developer with glasses, saying, "Xiao Lu, there is a problem with this function, please fix it." The developer, Xiao Lu, looks up from his work and readily agrees, addressing his superior as Brother Huang. He says, "All right, Brother Huang. I'll fix it immediately." Huang Sibo pats Xiao Lu on the shoulder, advising him, "You can consult Brother Bao regarding the issue with player sensitivity. He's a pro." Looking over his notes, Huang Sibo marvels at their financial situation. The budget for resources has been raised from 700,000 to 1.2 million, and now, with additional funding, it has reached 1.5 million and just keeps growing. Huang Sibo stands up, looking over the busy office with a new sense of purpose. Filled with a powerful sense of duty, he clenches his fists. He thinks about how Boss Pei has placed so much trust in him, never laying any blame. "I won't be able to face Boss Pei if I don't successfully create this game," he vows to himself, ready to pour his all into the project. Suddenly, a notification sound chimes. A new message has arrived on a smartphone lying on the desk. Huang Sibo looks at his phone in shock. "Ah, I received my salary. Isn't it only the 29th today?" he exclaims, completely caught off guard. He scratches his head in confusion, knowing that most businesses pay the current month's salary the following month. Just getting paid at the start of the month is considered lucky. He looks closer at the text message on his phone. It's a notification from the bank confirming that his account has been credited with 5,375.8 yuan on November 29th. His eyes widen in disbelief as he stares at the amount. This salary, did they miscalculate it? He wonders, shocked by the high figure. He brings up a calendar, confirming that he started working on November 5th. Today is the 29th. The realization dawns on him. He hasn't even worked for a full month yet. Just as he's pondering this mystery, he spots Assistant Xian, the company's sharp and professional administrator, walking past his desk. He quickly gets up and calls out to her, raising a hand to get her attention. "Miss Xian, could you please spare me a moment?" He hurries over to her, holding out his phone to show her the salary notification. "Miss Xian, did they make a mistake while sending me my salary?" he asks. Pointing at the message, he explains his confusion. "My base salary is 4,000 yuan per month, including tax, insurance, and rental allowance. Why did I get 5,000 yuan? Assistant Xian calmly gestures, explaining with a composed smile. "It's not a mistake. This is the correct amount. There's overtime pay included in it." The words hit Huang Sibo like a bolt of lightning. His face contorts in pure shock as he screeches. "Overtime pay?" She gives a knowing smile and confirms, "That's right. Not only you, everyone who worked overtime in the company has received overtime pay." She elaborates, pointing a finger as she explains the calculation. "You've worked overtime for around 50 hours, right? If we calculate the overtime pay as 1.5 times your hourly salary, and then deduct tax and other allowances, this will be the amount." Huang Sibo is left utterly speechless. A dramatic spotlight hits Huang Sibo. He looks up as if witnessing a divine revelation, struck by the unbelievable reality of what he has just heard. The legendary overtime pay. The news spreads like wildfire throughout the office. Another employee shouts, "Oh my God, it's real," while checking his own phone, adding in disbelief, "Even I have overtime pay?" As Assistant Xian walks away, Huang Sibo remains frozen in place, still trying to process this incredible turn of events. The developer, Xiao Lu, looks at his own phone, a quiet, surprised expression on his face. Even the perpetually chill hardcore gamer, Bao Su, stares at his phone, his usual relaxed demeanor replaced by wide-eyed astonishment. Bao Su is overcome with emotion, tears welling in his eyes as he clutches his face. The only conclusion he can come to is, Boss Pei actually knew about everything. Overwhelmed with gratitude, a single tear streaks down Huang Sibo's cheek as he stands in a brilliant golden light. He reflects on the incredible generosity of his boss. Boss Pei knew that we disregarded his order to not work overtime, but he didn't reprimand us. Instead, he secretly added overtime pay to our salary. This profound sense of being valued ignites a fire within him. He raises a fist to the sky, shouting, "Everyone must work hard. For Boss Pei's sake, we must make this game successful." Inspired by his passionate cry, the entire office ignites. They raise their fists in solidarity, roaring a collective, deafening yes, their motivation now at an all-time high. Meanwhile, blissfully unaware of the intense loyalty he has just accidentally inspired, Pei Qian despairs on his couch. "This damned system fund, why can't it empty out?" he groans. His frustration forces his mind to race, triggering an emergency internal meeting to figure out how to spend it all. The scene shifts to a metaphorical conference room inside Pei Qian's brain, where several chibi versions of himself are gathered. The one at the head of the table declares, "Emergency meeting for impulsive spending." The main Pei Qian chibi, holding a gavel, asks who wants to start the meeting. A studious-looking version with glasses eagerly raises his hand and volunteers. The lead chibi points the gavel at him, giving him the floor. "Yo, please go ahead," he says. The glasses-wearing Pei Qian begins to report on their spending, explaining. The money for buying art asset resources is divided into two parts. One part was used last week, and the other one was used this week. Another angry chibi slams his hand down in frustration, exclaiming that the rental for the office space, workers' salary, and even the overtime pay have all been paid out. Finally, a gamer chibi holding a controller sighs in defeat. Adding all the other casual expenditures, he laments. We barely managed to spend any of the system funds. Pei Qian is in distress. There are still 2 months before the next settlement, but his game, Ghost General, is relentlessly making money. This is a disaster for his plan to lose funds. He's racking his brain, desperately needing a method to spend money quickly. The pressure is mounting. Suddenly, a brilliant money-losing idea strikes him. What about a team-building trip? Yes, team building. The thought echoes in his mind, seeming like the perfect solution to his problem. Pei Qian gets excited. A team-building trip for over 30 people, spending a few hundred on each, could easily burn through thousands. He decides to have his assistant arrange it immediately. Back in his office, Pei Qian summons his assistant, Assistant Xian, to put his grand plan into motion. He instructs her to arrange a team-building event for the end of the month, letting her plan the schedule. Pei Qian elaborates on his extravagant idea, a 5-day learning exchange for the company's workers in Guangzhou. He specifies that they should visit large-scale FPS game companies and that the company will cover all expenses, including airfare, accommodation, and meals. Assistant Xian diligently takes notes. Pei Qian smirks with satisfaction. He believes this completely unnecessary trip is a surefire way to waste hundreds of thousands. Assistant Xian, ever the professional, agrees to get it done as soon as possible, unaware of her boss's true intentions. The scene shifts to the Tongda Company's well-appointed resting and recreational area, a testament to the excellent work environment Pei Qian accidentally created while trying to spend money. News travels fast. The employees are already buzzing with excitement, asking each other if they're really going to Guangzhou for a learning exchange. One employee confirms he heard Assistant Xian is preparing to book the tickets. They can't believe it, remarking that they've never heard of a company taking employees to visit another company for a learning exchange. Another employee chimes in, saying the perks of working for their company are fantastic. She notes that the trip costs a lot, more than she'd spend on herself. The employees start speculating about which company they'll be visiting, with one suggesting it might be the famous Sunstrike Studios. An employee with glasses gets excited at the prospect, agreeing that it must be Sunstrike Studios since they're renowned for their FPS games. He believes they can learn a lot. Meanwhile, a more senior employee looks on with a weary expression, clearly overwhelmed by their excitement. He tells them to get back to work and stop daydreaming about the trip to Guangzhou. But the employee with glasses, addressing him as Brother Huang, can't contain his excitement. He explains that they've never been to Guangzhou and are thrilled at the chance to visit the renowned Sunstrike Studios. Another colleague reassures Brother Huang, promising that their work's quality is always ensured, despite the excitement. The scene transitions, showing a closed wooden door, hinting at a return to Pei Qian's office. Pei Qian stares at the proposed budget in utter disbelief. His grand money-losing plan has been thwarted. The entire trip costs only 150,000. Assistant Xian, oblivious to his dismay, calmly explains that everything has been planned according to the standard commercial rate, which is why the cost is so low. He scans the document with a grimace as she confirms the trip is set for the end of December, just as he ordered. His perfect money-losing scheme was foiled by his assistant's efficiency. Assistant Xian continues to break down the costs, explaining that she only arranged for 30 people, accounting for those who might be uninterested. She details the budget. A 300 yuan per person rate for a 2-person room comes to 600 yuan per night, and with group meals, transportation, and an extra budget for employees, it all adds up to the low total sum. In a desperate attempt to inflate the cost, Pei Qian asks, "Can we make the tickets first class instead of economy?" But his attempt is immediately thwarted. The system, which governs his money-making and losing, flashes a stark warning, prohibiting such an unnecessary and lavish expenditure. Defeated and with no other options, Pei Qian gives in. "Forget it," he says, handing the documents back. "Let's just follow this plan." Internally, he's reeling. A trip for 30 workers to Guangzhou only costs 150,000 yuan? It's far too cheap for his money-losing goals. Oblivious to his inner turmoil, Assistant Xian takes the papers. "Okay, boss Pei. Then I'll contact the company in Guangzhou," she says professionally. The scene shifts to Guangzhou, inside the bustling offices of Sunstrike Studios, their destination. We meet Zhou Mayan, the general manager of Sunstrike Studios. He's just been informed about the visit. "Who? Tongda Network Technology Company Limited?" he asks, surprised. They're coming to Guangzhou and want to visit our studios for a learning exchange. His employee confirms the unusual request, addressing him as Boss Zhou. Zhou Mayan is utterly bewildered by the idea. What kind of company arranges for its employees to visit another company for a mere learning exchange? It's unheard of. Then, his employee reveals a critical piece of information. Ghost General was produced by this company, Boss Zhou. The news hits him like a lightning bolt. Tungdao are the creators of the hit game. The employee confirms and suggests a simple tour led by Brother Sun would suffice if he's unavailable. But Zhou Mayan is already reassessing the situation. His perspective shifts entirely. Ghost General is an incredibly popular mobile game. Its creator must be someone remarkable. He realizes this is a golden opportunity to network. All right, let's agree, he declares, his tone now serious. Schedule a date. I'll welcome them personally. After his employee confirms, she brings up another matter. She hands him the newcomer's elimination list for his review. She passes him the list of new hires who are slated to be let go. Zhou Mayan silently scans the names on the elimination list. He makes a swift decision. Except for Lin Wan, he says, fire the rest according to procedures. As he walks away, the employee looks at the list in confusion, wondering why Lin Wan was spared from the dismissals yet again. Back in the privacy of his office, Zhou Mayan leans back in his chair, contemplating his decision. He covers his face, replaying the reason he was forced to keep Lin Wan on the payroll. The reason is revealed through a flashback of a phone call. Zhou Mayan speaks with utmost respect to President Lin of the powerful MANHUA Corporation, eagerly offering to fulfill any request. The conversation reveals the shocking truth. Lin Wan is President Lin's granddaughter. The president has tasked Zhou Mayan with a delicate mission: find a way to make Lin Wan resign on her own. Returning to the present, Zhou Mayan reflects on the weight of this opportunity. MANHUA Corporation is a titan of industry, second to none in the country. Securing a connection with them through this task would be a massive boon for his studio. A cunning plan begins to form. He realizes the hidden meaning behind the president's words. To make Lin Wan resign, he must devise a strategy to completely destroy her idealized perception of the gaming industry. By forcing her to confront its harsh realities, he can make her give up on her own and curry favor with a powerful ally. Zhou Mayan muses on his plan. He believes it won't be difficult. All he needs to do is expose Lin Wan to the true, grueling nature of the gaming industry, as seen in the exhausted faces of his employees. The scene illustrates this harsh reality. A female employee, Lin Wan, reports to her exhausted-looking leader that she has completed a numerical value calculation. This is the environment Zhou Mayan wants to showcase. A manager erupts in anger over a simple mistake, throwing papers and shouting that the employee won't be able to leave until it's fixed, reinforcing the idea that the industry is a bloody sweatshop. Zhou's thoughts outline the grim realities he will use. Constant elimination lists, the grueling 996 work culture, forcing employees to give up their dreams for money and turning art into a soulless commodity. He is confident that as long as he makes Lin Wan confront this harsh truth, her passion will wither and she will resign on her own accord. A time skip to 1 month later. On the night of Friday, December 27th, the city lights of Guangzhou glitter below, signaling the start of the Tungdao team's trip. The team checks into a certain luxurious business hotel in Guangzhou, a far cry from the sweatshop environment Zhou Mayan cultivates. Inside a plush hotel suite, Pei Qian and his friend Ma Yang are relaxing. Ma Yang breaks the silence, complaining, "Brother Qian, I'm tired of pretending." He vents his frustration, saying he has to pretend he doesn't know Pei Qian in front of others and address him formally as boss. Worrying that their friendship is becoming distant due to work, Pei Qian reassures him, explaining that he must endure it for the company's sake. He then assigns Ma Yang a secret mission. "You are my most crucial informant in the business. If something catches your eye, please let me know immediately." Ma Yang is visibly shocked and instantly energized by this newfound importance, not quite grasping Pei Qian's true motive. Pei Qian explains that if others knew they were close, they would put their guard up, making it hard for him to know what's really happening in the company. Ma Yang, however, feels like he's been cast in a spy thriller. Changing the subject, Ma Yang asks about their upcoming visit, noting that everyone seems very interested in Sunstrike Studios and wonders if they are really that incredible. Pei Qian frankly replies, "How would I know?" He inwardly admits his sole purpose for the trip was to spend money, and that Assistant Xian had handled all the arrangements. To cover his own ignorance, Pei Qian gives Ma Yang another task. Sunstrike Studios will be the first business we visit tomorrow. To avoid awkward situations, try to ask a few questions when the opportunity arises. Ma Yang, in a classic moment of misunderstanding, brightly agrees. He assumes Pei Qian, as the boss, would lose face by asking questions himself, and proudly declares, "So just leave everything to me." The next day, Saturday, December 28th, dawns bright over the city. The Tungdao team arrives outside the impressive, modern building of Sunstrike Studios. The employees are immediately impressed, commenting on how rich the company must be to have its own building. They excitedly recall rumors about lavish prizes, like 5 months' salary or even a sports car. The female employees, dressed in matching uniforms, can't resist snapping some selfies to commemorate the occasion. As they proceed towards the entrance, Pei Qian trails behind, looking up at the massive structure. While his team is impressed by the prestige, he can only think of one thing. This place must have cost a lot of money to build. Upon entering, Assistant Xian gestures towards a man from the Sunstrike Games design department who has come to greet them. The man steps forward with a welcoming smile. "Are you Boss Pei? I'm glad to have you here. My name is Sun Shi, an employee here. I'm here to welcome you." Sun Shi formally greets Pei Qian with a handshake, offering to be their guide for the day and apologizing for any trouble. "Please follow me," Sun Shi says, leading the way. Pei Qian agrees, and the much-anticipated tour of Sunstrike Studios officially begins. At Sunstrike Studios, a man waits expectantly at the reception desk, having prepared for the arrival of important guests. He checks his reflection and styles his hair, confident in his appearance as he thinks that the people he's waiting for should be arriving soon. The sound of multiple footsteps echoes through the lobby, signaling the arrival of the awaited delegation. An employee approaches the man, who appears to be his superior, announcing that Boss Zhou, Boss Pei, and the other Tungdao officials have arrived. The head of Sunstrike Studios, Zhou Mayan, warmly shakes hands with the visitor, Boss Pei, greeting him with practiced courtesy. However, Zhou Mayan is internally assessing Boss Pei. Noting the expensive custom-made suit, he concludes that this young man must be a second-generation rich heir. A Sunstrike employee named Sun Shi steps forward with a welcoming smile, inviting everyone to follow him for a tour of the studio. The tour begins with the recording area. Sun Shi explains that this is where the studio creates all the music and sound effects for their games. Next, he gestures towards a large classroom, pointing out that this is where they occasionally hold training sessions on game design. Sun Shi then shows off some of their merchandise, highlighting a cosplay costume that was previously worn by a celebrity who promoted one of their games. Finally, he presents the resting and recreational area, informing the guests that they are free to help themselves to the snacks available. One of the Tungdao employees, Ma Yang, silently scoffs. He can't believe they call this a recreational area with just a single television and a console. His internal criticism continues as he looks at the small sofa, finding it ridiculous that this could be considered a proper resting area. He then notices the snack shelf, which holds only a few bags of chips and biscuits with a sign restricting the amount. This, to him, is the final straw. It's absurd to call this a snack area. The entire Tungdao team stands unimpressed, looking down at the meager facilities. They share the same thought. This is far worse than what they have back at their own company. Zhou Mayan freezes, a sense of dread washing over him. He doesn't understand. Why is the Tungdao team completely silent? He expected them to be impressed. A manic grin spreads across his face as he desperately tries to reframe the situation in his mind. He thinks, this is a fantastic recreation room. The TV is huge. The sofa is comfortable. This is peak comfort for domestic work conditions. But his internal monologue does nothing to break the heavy, awkward silence that has fallen over the room. Sun Shi, the guide, starts to panic internally. The situation is becoming incredibly awkward. He recalls being told by Brother Qian to ask questions if a moment like this occurred. Determined to salvage the tour, he musters his courage, ready to put his skills to the test and break the silence. He turns to the group and asks a question he thinks will highlight the studio's dedication. Isn't today Saturday? Why are there so many employees working overtime? The question completely baffles Zhou Mayan. He starts to sweat, thinking, what is he talking about? Don't all domestic game companies work on a 996 schedule? The idea of Saturday not being a workday is foreign to him. Meanwhile, Sun Shi is also panicking. He looks towards Boss Zhou with a desperate expression, admitting to himself that he has no idea what the answer is either. Ma Yang, ever the naive one, chimes in from behind, stating what he believes is a simple fact. It's for work. Working overtime is normal. Sun Shi, the guide, quickly agrees, adding that at least the employees can earn some overtime pay. This mention of payment sparks a cheerful realization in Sun Shi. He beams, thinking that with so many people working overtime, the monthly overtime payment must be super expensive, a sign of the company's financial might. He remains blissfully unaware that he's just dropped a bomb. The comment about overtime pay sends Zhou Mayan into a state of shock. The very concept is alien to him. He and his employee exchange a dead-eyed stare. His mind reels. Has there ever been an overtime payment in the gaming industry? Doesn't everyone work 996 unpaid? The cultural gap between the two companies has become a chasm. Seeing the disaster unfolding, Pei Qian quickly pulls Ma Yang aside. Stop questioning. He hisses, frustrated. I told you to ask questions, not to aggravate the situation. Do you think I came this far just to make enemies? Pei Qian immediately switches to damage control mode, putting an arm on Ma Yang's shoulder and addressing the stunned Sunstrike staff. He's a newcomer that recently joined us, he says with a disarming smile. Please forgive him for his impudence. Eager to escape the awkwardness, Sun Shi quickly ushers the group forward. Let's move on, he says cheerfully. I've arranged a discussion where we can share our experiences. Everyone, please follow me. The tour continues into the main office area of Sunstrike Studios, a large open-plan space filled with employees diligently typing away at their workstations. Sun Shi leads the Tungdao delegation in a single-file line through the narrow aisles between the desks. As they walk through, one of the Tungdao employees, a man with glasses, adjusts his frames and whispers in amazement. The workspace is so cramped. Ma Yang overhears and responds with his own unique logic. I think it's fine, he says with a slight sweat drop. He reasons. It's not that Sunstrike is cramped, it's just that Tungdao is too big. This comment reaches Zhou Mayan, who is once again thrown into a state of disbelief. Cramped? Is he for real? He thinks, looking back at the Tungdao employees. Don't most companies look like this? Having moved into the conference room, Sun Shi takes the podium and formally welcomes Tungdao's chief planner, Sir Huang Sibo, to share the successful experience of their hit game, Ghost General. Zhou Mayan and a new female employee, Lin Wan, who he kept on for strategic reasons, offer a polite round of applause. Pei Qian and the rest of his team also clap as their colleague, Huang Sibo, prepares to speak. Huang begins his speech, humbly clarifying that he didn't work on Ghost General himself, but has deeply researched it to understand Boss Pei's design principles. He confidently states that in his opinion, there are three main reasons for the game's incredible success. His first point, a perfectionist attitude towards the game's quality and a daring, unique art style. The Sunstrike employees listen with rapt attention, diligently taking notes. Huang elaborates, explaining that Boss Pei spent half the investment on art and hired a novice artist, a move players surprisingly embraced. He praises Boss Pei's vision, causing Pei Qian to grimace uncomfortably. He moves to his second point. The game was generous, with total expenses far below other card games, earning players love and respect. Lin Wan focuses intently on the presentation, carefully writing down every detail of what she believes is the secret to Tungdao's success. Huang raises three fingers for his third point. Boss Pei invested all the money into development and cleverly used Weibo to generate hype in the artist community, creating a viral marketing campaign. He declares this strategy is a classic case study for success. Pei Qian can only manage a strained, sweaty smile. He thinks to himself, he spoke so well about it, even I don't know if I had these thoughts back then. His plan to fail has been twisted into a legendary success story. From the podium, Huang Sibo sees his boss nodding and mistakes Pei Qian's resignation for agreement. He's nodding. It seems my speculation about his design ideals is correct. Huang thinks excitedly. This means I'm gradually catching up to Boss Pei. The host returns to the stage, thanking Huang for his insightful sharing. He then extends a warm welcome to Sunstrike Studios' own boss Zhou, who will now share his company's accomplishments. As Zhou Mayan walks past Pei Qian, his mind is blown. He reflects on what he just heard. Boss Pei spent all the money on development and none on marketing, hired a newbie artist, and changed the entire profit model for card games. Pei Qian claps with a placid smile, the very picture of a confident leader. Zhou Mayan looks at him with newfound admiration, thinking, what a successful young man. Despite his youth, he has a lot of nerve. Now on stage, Zhou Mayan is energized. He announces that Sunstrike is working on a new FPS game called Bullet Hole, and boldly declares that their aim is to surpass the legendary Counter-Strike. He begins to outline his strategy, explaining that the most important thing in an FPS game is its player sensitivity, because the majority of FPS players are seasoned veterans. Zhou Mayan continues, explaining that they've made every effort to make Bullet Hole's hand sensitivity 90% similar to Counter-Strike. He adds that they've also worked harder on the visual design, even hiring military experts to consult on weapons and outfits. Finally, Zhou reveals their monetization strategy. The game will be free to play, but the equipment will require money. He declares they are trying to create a money-making miracle in the FPS genre. Upon hearing this perfectly sound business plan, Pei Qian panics, realizing it's bad. Pei Qian's mind races. Boss Zhou's concept for Bullet Hole is completely different from his own plan for Ocean Stronghold. He's afraid that the veteran players from Counter-Strike will find Bullet Hole far more enticing, dooming his own game. He considers the inevitable outcome, thinking that if by any chance both of their games clash in the market, Ocean Stronghold would be completely annihilated. A slow, joyous smile spreads across Pei Qian's face as he realizes that this is the perfect opportunity for him to finally lose money. Standing behind him, the ever-confused Ma Yang notices his friend's strange reaction and wonders. Huh? Why is Boss Pei smiling? The Sunstrike employees, however, form a completely different conclusion. They believe Pei came to their studio to assess their game, and having confirmed that Bullet Hole will be a failure, is now smiling with supreme confidence. Pei Qian begins to clap enthusiastically, thinking to himself, as expected, experts do think alike. He is ecstatic that with Zhou Mayan's solid plan, his own game, Ocean's stronghold, will definitely be beaten out by Bullet Hole. After the presentation, Pei Qian shakes Zhou Mayan's hand, congratulating him on a wonderful speech. Zhou Mayan, filled with admiration, humbly replies that he cannot accept such praise from someone as talented and successful as Boss Pei. Zhou Mayan then excuses himself, stating he has another matter to attend to. Pei Qian graciously allows him to go. As Zhou Mayan and his new employee Lin Wan head out, Pei Qian is left standing alone for a moment. However, with a look of determination, Lin Wan turns and walks purposefully toward Boss Pei, leaving her own boss behind. She calls out, "Boss Pei, please wait a moment." Her voice stops him just as he is about to leave. Approaching him with a hopeful sparkle in her eyes, she introduces herself. "Hello, Boss Pei. My name is Lin Wan. Can I please have a minute of your time? I wish to ask you some questions." Slightly taken aback but agreeable, Pei Qian gives her a small smile and says, Sure." Lin Wan gets straight to the point with a thoughtful expression. "Boss Pei, is earning money the primary goal while creating a game?" Pei Qian gives the perfect, noble-sounding answer. "In my opinion, the main goal of a game is bringing happiness to the players." Internally, however, his true goal flashes in his mind. "For me, the main goal of my game is to lose money." His answer makes Lin Wan's eyes sparkle with inspiration. She immediately follows up. "Then, Boss Pei, I suppose your company doesn't have an elimination system, right?" "Definitely not," Pei Qian declares passionately. "Every employee is like my family. We have to grow and improve together. How can I just abandon them?" But as always, his internal monologue reveals a twisted logic. "If I'm to eliminate employees, I will eliminate the hardworking ones. There's no way I'm eliminating a slacker." Continuing the conversation from the previous chapter, Lin Wan, a young woman with vibrant orange hair, curiously asks Pei Qian about his company's work culture. Pei Qian, the protagonist who is secretly trying to run his company into the ground, explains that while he encourages employees to go home, he has to pay the ones who voluntarily work overtime. Unaware of his true goal, Lin Wan then asks if he's making games to fulfill a personal dream. He bluntly says no, lying that his primary goal is still just to earn money. Lin Wan doesn't buy it for a second. With a knowing smile, she dismisses his claim, stating her belief that he is a man driven by a profound dream, not just money. Having completely misinterpreted his intentions, Lin Wan respectfully thanks Boss Pei for his time and bows. As she turns and walks away, Pei Qian watches her leave, a look of bewilderment on his face. Lin Wan walks off with a blissful, confident smile, leaving a very confused Pei Qian in her wake. Pei Qian is left completely puzzled, scratching his head as he wonders who on earth this girl is, and why she seems to think he's some kind of visionary. The scene shifts. Lin Wan is now in the office of her current employer, Sunstrike Studios, placing an envelope on the desk of her boss. Her boss, a man with a goatee, looks up from his work, surprised by the sudden interruption, and asks what she's giving him. With a calm and determined expression, Lin Wan formally announces to her superior, Boss Zhou, that she has decided to resign. Boss Zhou's eyes light up. He immediately jumps to a wild conclusion, excitedly asking if she's finally seen the darkness of the gaming industry and decided to go home to inherit a multi-billion-dollar family fortune. As he takes the resignation letter, he asks for clarification. Is she really planning to leave the gaming industry for good? Lin Wan gives him a simple one-word answer. No. Boss Zhou is utterly flabbergasted. If she isn't leaving the industry, why is she resigning? He questions if she thinks his studio isn't good enough for her. Seeing his reaction, Boss Zhou softens his approach, asking if she encountered any problems while working for him. Lin Wan gracefully acknowledges the care he has shown her, but implies that her reasons for leaving lie elsewhere. Looking out the window, she reflects on her decision, feeling that she won't be able to truly chase her gaming dream if she continues to stay at this company. She wants to try another place, a new environment where she can pursue her passion for making games. The scene changes to a modern, glass-paneled office building. A caption tells us the date, Thursday, January 7th, 2010. Back at his own company, Tungda, Pei Qian walks through the office, observing his employees hard at work. One of his developers, a young man with bright orange hair named Li Yan, calls out to him. He asks for an update on the game, Ocean's Stronghold, and whether they need to delay its launch. Li Yan confidently declares there's no need for a delay. He assures Boss Pei that he's personally tested the game multiple times and all the bugs have been fixed. The game is ready for release at any time. Pei Qian agrees to take a look, though he's inwardly horrified. He was counting on this game being a failure, but Li Yan's confidence suggests it might actually be good. He wonders how his team managed to finish the game so perfectly, both in quality and quantity. Li Yan eagerly offers to show him the game right away. As he pulls it up, he starts by explaining the story mode, where players will need to fight their way from the lowest floor to the highest, a journey that should take around 6 hours to complete. As the gameplay demo continues, Li Yan explains that the game involves fighting zombies and mercenaries with some simple puzzle elements. He then points out a special item, the epic weapon, Rainbow Red Kylan, which will be introduced during the launch month. The weapon stat screen appears, showing off its impressive stats. Lian proudly states that, as per Boss Pei's demand, the permanent version of the weapon costs a staggering 888 yuan. Pei Qian is stunned. The graphics are completely different from what he'd anticipated. While it's not on par with a top-tier overseas FPS game, he has to admit that it looks pretty good, which is terrible news for his plan. He panics internally, mentally screaming, "Who told you to make the game look so awesome?" He knows that being too successful could be the death of him. But then, a horrible memory flashes in his mind. He recalls a past meeting where he had rejected the initial budget, thinking it was too low to lose money effectively. In a bid to burn cash faster, he had angrily ordered them to double the budget. He now realizes with dawning horror that he is the reason the game turned out so well. He has no one to blame but himself. Back in the present, Pei Qian tries to reassure himself. He thinks that at least the time-consuming, unappreciated story mode and the absurdly priced 888 yuan weapon are still part of his plan for failure. Oblivious to his boss's inner turmoil, Lian asks if he wants to see the game's other modes. Eager to stop this successful presentation, Pei Qian quickly waves him off. He gives the order to prepare the game and send it to the official website for review immediately. As he turns away, Pei Qian comforts himself with one final thought. Their competitor's game, Bullet Hole, is also being released soon. He's confident it will crush Ocean's stronghold, leading to the bitter defeat he so desperately desires. Later, back in the quiet of his office, Pei Qian sits down and calls up the interface for his secret wealth conversion system. He stares in disbelief at the numbers. The system fund hasn't decreased. Instead, it has ballooned by over 360,000, bringing the total to a disastrous 1.38 million. His plans to lose money have backfired yet again. He slumps back in his chair, completely drained. After all his hard work trying to fail, he's ended up with a massive profit. The exhaustion is overwhelming, but he can't give up. To salvage the situation before the next settlement, he decides to plan another cohesion event, to spend the remaining 100k as quickly as possible. Just as he's scheming, his professional-looking assistant with long, dark hair opens the door and enters the office. Pei Qian immediately puts his new plan into action. He instructs his assistant, Xin, to organize a cohesion event for the very next afternoon to commemorate the completion of Ocean's stronghold, telling her to book an entire venue for a movie, a meal, and KTV. Assistant Xin is taken aback by the sudden, extravagant request. She points out that tomorrow is Friday, a workday. Pei Qian counters with his signature twisted logic, arguing that it would be unfair to the employees to use their day off for a company event, framing his wasteful plan as a gesture of kindness. After accepting the order, Assistant Xin brings up another piece of news. She reminds him of Lin Wan, the girl who had questioned him during their visit to Sunstrike Studios. Xin reports that Lin Wan has come to the city and wants to work for their company, resolutely stating she doesn't even need to be paid, and is waiting in the meeting room right now. Pei Qian is rendered speechless for a moment, processing this unexpected development. He asks Assistant Xin for her assessment of the situation, finding it hard to believe someone would willingly work for free. Assistant Xin offers her analysis, suggesting that Lin Wan's origins are more complex than they appear, and that she might be a rich lady from a wealthy family. Though Lin Wan seems humble, Xin is concerned she might also be a bit innocent and naive. The words innocent rich young lady are music to Pei Qian's ears. To him, that translates to no capabilities. He realizes with glee that she is the perfect candidate to help him lose money. She fits his bizarre hiring requirements perfectly. Without hesitation, he decides to hire her, setting her salary at 4,000 yuan a month. Most importantly, he instructs Xin not to give her any work, letting her do whatever she wants. As a final thought, he tells Xin to make sure Lin Wan is included in the team activities the next day. Meanwhile, in the small meeting room, Lin Wan waits patiently on the sofa, holding a warm drink, completely unaware that she has just been hired specifically to be an unproductive employee and help her new boss's secret scheme to lose money. A close-up shows Lin Wan waiting in the meeting room, looking slightly anxious but hopeful as she sips her drink. Assistant Xin enters the meeting room to finally give Lin Wan the news. With a professional smile, Assistant Xin presents the official Tengda contract. She congratulates Lin Wan, informing her that Boss Pei has agreed to hire her at a monthly salary of 4,000 yuan. Lin Wan is ecstatic. Having been prepared to work for free just for the opportunity, the offer of a salary is beyond her wildest dreams. She accepts immediately and enthusiastically. After taking the contract, she eagerly asks what her role and responsibilities will be. Assistant Xin hesitates for a moment, remembering her boss's strange instructions. Dodging the question about actual work, Assistant Xin gives Lin Wan her first assignment. Show up for the company's cohesion event tomorrow afternoon for movies, a meal, and karaoke. Lin Wan is utterly bewildered. Her first task at her new dream job is to go to a party? She clutches her contract, completely confused by this unorthodox start. The story jumps forward to Monday, January 11th. The scene opens on the sleek, modern front desk of the Tengda Network Technology offices. Pei Qian walks into the office to find one of his employees, a man with longish brown hair, slumped over his desk looking utterly dejected. Pei Qian internally celebrates, assuming this is the face of failure he's been hoping to see. Li Yan approaches his glum-looking colleague, addressing him as Brother Bao. He asks if he's also noticed the data for their newly launched game, Ocean Stronghold. Li Yan complains that it's not enough. They submitted the game for review on Friday, and even though it's already Monday, there hasn't been a single download. He continues, worried, saying he's scoured the internet but can't find a single advertisement. He wonders aloud if Boss Pei has even made an attempt to promote the game. But Bao Su suddenly brightens up, dismissing Li Yan's concerns with a laugh. He argues that if Boss Pei hasn't asked them to promote it, they shouldn't worry. His faith in his boss's mysterious plan is absolute. Pei Qian, who has been eavesdropping nearby, wheels his chair back silently, a smug look on his face. You're correct, he thinks to himself, pleased that his lack of promotion is working as intended. Li Yan and Bao Su conclude that they don't need to be concerned when their boss is as smart as Pei Qian, reaffirming their misguided belief in his genius. Changing the subject, Li Yan suggests to Bao Su that they should start working on the development plan for the game's next version. He points out that otherwise, with the main project complete, the development team would have nothing to do, as demonstrated by another employee casually eating snacks and watching videos. Bao Su is confused by this. The game just launched. Why would they need to start preparing the next version so soon? Li Yan lays out their problem. They have no work to do. They can't fix bugs without feedback since there are no players, and they already have plenty of content, so creating new maps or gameplay isn't necessary yet. The main menu of Ocean Stronghold is displayed, showing its various game modes: story mode, battle mode, biochemical model, ghost mode, and blasting mode. Therefore, Li Yan comes to a conclusion. He believes they should ask some veteran players to test the game and gather their opinions and suggestions before moving on to any refinements. Bao Su immediately pokes a hole in the plan. Where would they even find these players? And more importantly, wouldn't they have to pay them? Li Yan scratches his head, realizing they're in a dilemma. He admits he'll have to think of another plan to solve the money and recruitment issue. Taking matters into his own hands, Li Yan sits at his desk and starts typing, determined to find a solution by reaching out to a wider community. He posts a message in the public Tengda Game Development Group chat. He asks for help finding a batch of FPS players to test their game, clarifying that while they can't pay any money, they can offer limited edition guns from the game as a token of their appreciation, hoping someone in the large group has a connection. His request is met with a series of unhelpful replies from his colleagues in the group chat. One by one, they confirm they have no connections in the FPS gaming community, leaving Li Yan at a dead end. Another employee, Brother Huang, stands up and proposes a new idea. He suggests they find a few popular Counter-Strike gamer groups, sneak into their chats, and try to make a secret deal with the group leaders to get their members to test the game. Li Yan casually dismisses the idea, pointing out the obvious flaw. They would just get kicked out immediately for trying to advertise in someone else's group. Brother Huang scratches his head, defeated. He realizes Li Yan is right, and their options for finding testers are dwindling. As Li Yan slumps back in his chair, groaning in frustration at their hopeless situation, an unexpected savior appears. Lin Wan, the new hire who was supposed to do nothing, steps up behind him, ready to solve the very problem that has stumped the entire team. Lin Wan pleasantly surprises Pei Qian by revealing she is acquainted with several leaders of large FPS gaming groups. Pei Qian, seeing a golden opportunity, eagerly asks if she can request their help. Lin Wan smiles and confirms, saying she's quite close with them. Pei Qian, looking a bit puzzled, scratches his head and asks how she knows so many FPS group leaders, noting that she doesn't seem to be an avid player herself. Lin Wan explains with a cheerful expression that during her internship at Sunstrike Studios, she was in charge of contacting a group of veteran FPS gamers who were invited to test their game, Bullet Hole. The scene shifts, showing the exterior of an apartment building against a clear blue sky, indicating a change in location. Inside, a man sits at his professional gaming setup, complete with a curved monitor, gaming posters, and a collection of games on the shelf. A closer view from behind shows the man, wearing a jacket with a tiger's logo, immersed in an FPS game. A chat notification pings on his screen. It's a message from Lin Wan, who asks Old Chun to stop lurking and help her test a game. He replies, asking if Bullet Hole needs more testing before its release. Back in the office, Lin Wan clarifies that it's a different game. She then reveals that she has resigned from her position at Sunstrike Studios. The scene cuts back to the tester, Huang Sibo, who smirks and commends her for leaving right after the game's debut, questioning if she's pitting herself against the money from the release bonus. Lin Wan dismisses his comment, stating that the bonus means nothing to her and that her current company is much better. She urges him to stop talking nonsense and help her test the game. Huang Sibo reluctantly agrees and asks if the price is the same as it was at Sunstrike Studios, 500 yuan per test. Lin Wan cheerfully says nope. Instead of payment, she offers him a reward, a limited edition in-game Desert Eagle. Huang Sibo is outraged, yelling at her for trying to get free labor. A startled Lin Wan quickly assures him that her new company is not frugal at all. Thinking for a moment, Lin Wan sweetens the deal, offering a permanent epic weapon in addition to the limited edition Desert Eagle. He gets even angrier, questioning her sanity. He scoffs at the idea of wanting an in-game weapon, estimating its cost at a mere 1 or 200 yuan at most. Lin Wan innocently mentions that from what she knows, the in-game epic weapon is actually sold for 888 yuan. Upon hearing the price, Huang Sibo is so shocked that he spits the drink he was sipping all over his monitor, screaming, "How much did you say?" Still in disbelief, he frantically wipes down his monitor, the can of soda still in his hand. He immediately messages Lin Wan to clarify if she meant 888 in-game currency or actual yuan. She casually replies, "Of course it's yuan." Staring at his screen in utter shock, Huang Sibo can't believe a single epic weapon is being sold for 888 yuan, calling it daylight robbery and wondering what idiot would ever buy it. His curiosity piqued by the absurd price, he looks at the game launcher for Ocean Stronghold and clicks the start button. As the game loads, he starts eating a cup of instant noodles, already feeling like the game will probably suck just based on its name. While slurping his noodles, he's taken aback, admitting to himself that the game's graphics are actually pretty decent, which piques his curiosity. He decides to check the in-game store first, and is stunned to find only a single item available for purchase, a permanent epic weapon called Rainbow Red Kuan, costing a whopping 888. He wonders what else this surprising game has in store. While eating his noodles, Huang Sibo remains skeptical. He notes that the Fire Kylan's attributes don't seem special, making him think the game is basically a giveaway. However, upon seeing the main menu for Ocean Stronghold, he's surprised to find a lot of brand new gameplay options, including a ghost mode and a biochemical mode he has never seen before. His jaw drops when he notices there's even a story mode, a feature that catches him completely off guard for this type of game. He decides that even with zero expectations, he might as well give the story mode a try, his curiosity piqued. His cursor selects story mode from the menu, and a loading bar appears, signaling the start of the gameplay. The game begins with a dark screen, showing the world from the character's point of view as he slowly regains consciousness. Two blurry figures are seen, and the character wonders if he's dead. The two figures in hazmat suits discuss his condition, mentioning he has the virus G infection and is left with nothing but death. They decide to abandon him. The character's eyes snap open in a panic as he takes a sharp breath. Now in the third person, the game character, who looks just like Huang Sibo, struggles to his feet, feeling completely exhausted. He stands over a seemingly dead body, muttering an apology to the brother NPC. Suddenly, the NPC on the floor lunges upward, grabbing his leg in a terrifying jump scare. The character is thrown off balance, crying out in pain as he falls backward. A tutorial prompt appears on the screen, instructing the player on movement controls. Huang Sibo is impressed, noting that it's decent of the game to even have a tutorial for newbies. Following the tutorial, he begins to move his character around the dilapidated room using the WASD keys. He cautiously approaches a closed door, nervously wondering if a final boss is about to jump out at him. With bated breath, his character's hand slowly reaches out and turns the doorknob. As the door creaks open, a zombie with glowing red eyes and a menacing grin is revealed on the other side. The zombie lunges forward, causing Huang Sibo to curse in absolute terror. The zombie gets terrifyingly close, its sharp, grotesque teeth aiming for the character's shoulder. The jump scare works perfectly, as Huang Sibo lets out a loud scream. Recovering from the shock, his character fights back, grabbing the zombie and angrily yelling about being ambushed. In a swift motion, he pulls a pistol from his coat. With a look of intense focus, he points the gun at the zombie's head, ready to send it to the next life. A loud bang echoes as he fires the gun, and the zombie drops lifelessly to the floor. Breathing heavily, Huang Sibo complains about the experience. He's annoyed that an FPS game was designed more like a horror game, and admits that it scared him shitless. Back in the game, the character kneels on the floor, still shaken. He wonders aloud if he was infected after being bitten by the zombie. His strength gives out, and he collapses, questioning if this is the end for him. As he lies on the ground, a small pair of feet in slippers appears beside him. He looks up to see a little girl, an NPC, holding a massive syringe. He stares in confusion, wondering what she intends to do. With tears in her eyes, the little girl trembles as she plunges the syringe into his shoulder. Green plus signs appear, indicating he is being healed. He has a sudden realization. The little girl's blood can cure him of the virus. Now healed, he kneels and tries to speak to the girl, greeting her in English, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, but gets no response. The girl simply looks at him and gestures, leading him to realize that she is a mute. The scene cuts back to Huang Sibo at his computer. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he exclaims that the game is actually fun. Back in the game, he's gleefully mowing down zombies with a heavy machine gun, noting how stable the shooting is and how simple the recoil patterns are. As he continues his zombie slaughter, he praises the game's mechanics, noting the satisfying sensitivity and how easy it is to land headshots compared to other games like Counter-Strike. He reflects that the most outstanding part of the game is the little girl's design. Without her, the game would have been a mindless shooter with no story. He realizes that her inclusion immediately gives the player a goal and revitalizes the entire experience, giving it purpose beyond just killing. The game's story culminates in a dramatic escape, with the character and the little girl flying away in a helicopter. Inside the helicopter, the little girl sleeps peacefully, bathed in the warm glow of the sun, a serene end to their harrowing journey. The helicopter flies off into the beautiful sunset, marking the emotional and cinematic end of the story mode. Having completed the story, Huang Sibo sits back from his computer, his face obscured by shadow. Completely won over, he immediately starts typing in his group chat, passionately urging everyone to try the King awesome game, Ocean Stronghold. Meanwhile, Pei Qian steps out of an elevator, finally back at the office after a full week of exams, having not yet checked the game's back-end data. As he walks towards the office, he confidently thinks to himself that his game, Ocean Stronghold, should be completely done for by now. He arrives at the Tungdao Network Technology reception area, only to be surprised that there's no one at the front desk. Looking around the empty entrance, he wonders what is happening. Pei Qian walks further into the office and notices an employee sitting stiffly at his desk, staring at his screen with a shocked expression and clicking his mouse erratically. He walks past another employee who is nervously munching on chips while staring intently at his computer screen. Pei Qian grows more confused by his staff's strange, distressed behavior. From behind, Pei Qian sees two female employees whispering and assumes they are gossiping about the game's terrible performance, finding it hard to accept the truth of its failure. He then notices Bao Su, who is usually always playing games, sighing dejectedly by the window. Pei Qian assumes even he is questioning his own existence due to the game's failure. Pei Qian starts to feel a bit of pity, thinking that although his employees are all slackers who were mostly on vacation, they still put some time and effort into the game. Stealing his resolve, he clenches his fist and decides that in a difficult time like this, his employees need a boss like him to give them some comfort for their failure. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more awesome stories.